queers! What's on the big gay agenda today, Theora?
Today we are continuing our scene-by-scene breakdown of Blank the series, and today we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 3. Probably not the whole thing, because the notes are really long.
No, it's coming in, clocking it out at 9 hours right now.
Yeah, so I hope you're ready for this episode. I love this episode.
I couldn't tell, Theora.
No, this episode is so good. I said that about all the episodes, but this one's really, really good. Y'all know.
Really
Y'all know.
Say that about every episode.
They're all good.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
But hi, if you're new here, welcome.
This is not a reaction video.
This is not a reaction video.
No, this is a discussion.
But if you do like the discussion episodes, and you want to see a reaction to the entire Blank the series, amongst many, many other shows, go ahead to our Patreon, where for $5 a month, you can get access to all reactions, full, unedited, plus early access to all of these discussion videos, plus so much more, because I don't even think we have room to publish anymore on Patreon, and we're publishing so much. Anyway,
We do.
I know, but like, every single day is filled. Anyway, then come join our Discord and tell us your thoughts about this episode, because we want to hear them. There's a lot going on, obviously.
So
That's
much.
why we're going to be here for so long. So strap in and gay it up, because...
I mean, that's appropriate. That's appropriate for this episode. So, okay, Kaitlynn, good job. Good phrasing.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into this. So this episode starts again with the 360 kiss. So hydrate for that. So we got to see it twice.
Yes.
Twice. With a different soundtrack for some reason. I don't know why the music is different. It's different music. Like, at the end of 201, it's ominous. And then at the beginning of, like, 203, it's not. So I don't know why.
They want you to forget that that Auntie Nim catches them.
They're just like, remember how iconic this kiss was in the hallway? So we did. Thanks, 9-star.
Yeah, so unfortunately this kiss, before I think it can get to the whole 360, hold on. First of all, can you imagine like an actual 360 though? Like, if I would have to like flip. Okay, but unfortunately this kiss is interrupted by Auntie Nim lurking in the doorway.
She's the welcoming committee. We all knew this was gonna happen. We knew it was gonna happen.
They did too. They just
No, they did. That's
Yeah.
why Big Nung's like, we're gonna get caught. Let's get caught in style.
So, after they get caught, Little Nung goes somewhere, and I don't actually know where she goes, but she just leaves.
I think Big Nung sends her to her room because that's what she was trying to do before Little Nung was like, no, you're making out with me furiously in the hallway right now. And Big Nung's like, I guess, because she's trying to send her to her room.
Yeah,
So she's in
so
her room.
Little Nung goes to her room while Auntie Nim and Big Nung relocate to the balcony.
The gap
Because
balcony.
they had to make this as dramatic as possible.
Correct. Yes.
And I don't think it's just the balcony. I think it's like halfway up the balcony, which is a choice as well.
It's a choice.
Anyway, I mean, it was very, very necessary to change location. They couldn't just have the conversation right where they
You know what I think happened? The ghost of the Grandmam brought them here. Because remember, the Grandmam confronted Sam on this exact balcony in Gap. So she's like, you guys should talk about this here where my ghost can overhear everything. Because she's brought up in this conversation.
That, but like when the Grandmam confronted Sam was on the floor, I believe, still.
Correct.
So, but in this situation, Big Nung has the power right now because she is the head. So she had to go up on the balcony because it's an even playing field.
How funny would it be if, like, Big Nung was trying to go up here to talk to Nim on the floor, and I was like, no, wait. Big Nung's like, damn it, no, you're supposed... Whatever, let's just have this conversation. I'm tired.
Of the lesbian ghost of Grandmam. Grandmam gave her head of household power to Auntie Nim to be able to go on the balcony with Big Nung.
Right. So, like, okay, what I like about this scene is that, to me, Auntie Nim in this scene reads like a surrogate parent to Big Nung by how this conversation basically goes down. It's a much more tame version, I'm sure, of what would have went down with the Grandmam if the Grandmam was alive. If you want to
What
see
do
how
you
the
mean? The
Grandmam...
Grandmam would have been so happy about this, Theora.
If you want to see how the Grandmam would have reacted to this, go watch Gap. Go watch Gap, the series. So you'll see her reaction. Because this is worse than Sam and Mon. So anyway. So, alright. So the way this conversation goes is like... Basically, Auntie Nim is like, what the hell did I just walk in on? Like, what were you doing? Okay, my job is to come out and greet people that come in the house, not find people 5 seconds from fucking in the hallway. Like, what was that, Nung? And Nung's like, oh my god. So they get into this, like, whole thing about the truth of Nung and Big Nung and Little Nung's relationship, basically, is what they actually get to. Because, like, let's be real, Auntie Nim's been suspicious since the Waffle House incident. And so, here it is. She got the proof now.
Something like that going on, or Big Nung's getting into kidnapping. So...
Right. Nim is concerned about what's going on here. So... I imagine, like, all right, here's the deal. So, to me, she reads as a surrogate parent because I imagine Auntie Nim has been working in this palace most of her life. And so she probably helped the Grandmam raise Nung and her sisters when they came to live in the palace. And by raise, I mean Auntie Nim helped enforce the Grandmam's rules, which are the rules of living in this palace, in order to make sure the girls grew up, quote, like, the right way, into proper ladies or whatever, right? And I think because Auntie Nim is such a stickler for the rules, which we've seen in this show, I think that that's what emboldens her, like, the employee, to confront Big Nung, right? Because, like, they're not actually on equal playing field, like, socially. But Auntie Nim reads as a concerned parent in this scene. Because I think, like, first of all, her loyalty to the Grandmam is eternal, not internal. Eternal, forever. It's forever. And I think that, you know, in this environment, like, Auntie Nim probably, like, legitimately cares for Nung and her sisters and is concerned the way the Grandmam would be concerned, but because she's not the Grandmam, she can't, like, full out yell at Nung in this scene like the Grandmam would. Like, she can't explode on her.
What if Auntie Nim and the Grandmam were friends when they were younger? Like, Prick and Anin. And, like, they were always, like, family. So she was even closer to the girls in general because the Grandmam and her used to be so close. But then, like, once the Grandmam, like, rose into power, they had to, like, keep a more professional relationship. Maybe they even had a thing at one point, you know, I'm all here for making everybody a lesbian, so...
I mean, that is a
That's
theory.
what's going on in my brain.
It's possible. I think that they were definitely close, and Auntie Nim obviously cares about the Grandmam and, like, respects her a lot based on a lot of the conversations. We're going to get into another one with her and Little Nung later in the episode. Who knows how many hours from now, but we will get into that. Where, like, she clearly respected the Grandmam, right? So I think that's where this is all coming from.
Yeah.
And... The bottom line is that the palace has rules, okay? It's like the rules of royalty. You know, you want to be in this, you know, if you want to be in this type of privilege, it comes with constraints, okay? It's not no strings attached. There's strings. And Nung knew that when she moved back into the palace, but, like, free rent. So she's like, whatever, and, like, moved back, right?
That is Big Nung's dream, basically.
Correct.
Rent.
Free rent, free food. She's like, yeah, whatever. Oppressive environment, why not?
It's like, I did this most of my life. I can handle this for free rent and food.
All right, exactly. So the conversation starts going where Nim's like, what are you doing, Nung? And Nung's like, I'm just living my best life. What do you mean? And Big Nung and Auntie Nim brings up the Grandmam. And she's like, well, I'm just worried. I'm sorry if I'm being nosy or whatever, or overstepping the boundaries of, like, employer-employee shit. But she's like, I'm worried because if your grandmother was here, she would also be super worried at this behavior that you're displaying, right? It's not proper. It's not, like, proper etiquette. You're not following the rules. Like, so I'm concerned you're breaking rules because your grandmother was real big on the rules. And I think once she brings up the grandmam, Big Nung starts regressing, right? Because we've talked about this a million times. She's in her childhood home, but now that the enforcer of the rules is being brought up, Big Nung regresses even more into like being a child who was trapped in the castle, right? That was her childhood. So to me, this conversation sounds a lot like what I imagined Big Nung would have wanted to say to the grandmam as this conversation gets into it, if the two of them ever actually talked about issues like adults, which they never did. So to me, it's almost like the writers gave us that scene, but replaced the grandmam with Auntie Nim in this kind of context of the show. So to me, the way this all plays out with Auntie Nim is like what could have been with the grandmam. Okay? And so they kind of keep going, and Auntie Nim's like, I'm just worried you're breaking rules. Like, your grandmother would be worried. Like, I'm worried if she saw this. And Nung is like... She's like, that's what this is about. This is about making other people happy. And she's like, Auntie Nim, tell me, what's the secret? What do I have to do to make everybody happy? I've been trying to figure that out on my own. And remember Nung, her big thing is like, I'm afraid of making mistakes, all this kind of stuff. She's like, tell me what you want from me, right? And when she asks Auntie Nim of this, it sounds really sincere. Like, she's so frustrated and tired. And she's just like, tired of disappointing people. She's like, tell me what you want. Here's her, quote, like a disappointed parent, right, in this conversation. And she's like, what do you want? What do I have to do to make you happy? And interestingly, Auntie Nim has no answer to that. She gets real quiet when Nung asks this question. Because, like, seriously, what do you want from her?
Like, no one knows what they actually want people to do. They just know what they don't want them to do. But...
Right.
Big Nung then goes on to say, like, I feel like Big Nung is just done at this point. She's like, you need to understand where I'm coming from. And she says that little Nung is her happiness, and then says she's my everything. And she's just trying to get Auntie Nim to realize that this isn't just like a random thing, like a teenage rebellion thing. Not that she's a teenager anymore, but no, like, that's kind of like how they treat her with the way that they're repressing her. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Like, because think about it. Yeah, she rebelled, came back, and it's like watching her with a wary eye. Like, she's going to break the rules again. And so I think Nung feels judged a little bit. And she's like, look, what do you want from me? I'm like, this person makes me happy. I wasn't doing something scandalous. Like, by her saying that, she's admitting, like, we've been together for a while. That's what she's kind of saying. It's not like I just picked her up out of the Waffle House and this all just started. Like, she's like...
She just travels through Waffle Houses trying to pick up women.
Pick up women? What a weird, what a weird thing to be into. If that's your thing and it works, good for you. But like, Big Nung would never. All right, anyway. But the fact that what I love about those two lines when she admits, little Nung is my happiness, she's my everything. The fact that she can even say that out loud so easily to another person is a testament to her tremendous growth, truly.
Yeah. And then I feel like, especially with how you said that Auntie Nim is the stand-in for the grandmam, Big Nung asks Auntie Nim if her true feelings about little Nung change anything. Because she's still trying to, like, have the acceptance. She wants it. I mean, little Nung has validated her, but she definitely does need a parental type figure to validate her as well.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, they have to coexist in this palace. So she's basically... I think Big Nung got into this conversation thinking, okay, younger woman, older woman, the scandal of it all. And, like, that's why Auntie Nim's like, it's kind of about appropriateness. It's not just that you're making out with people in the hallway. It's, like, who you're making out with in the hallway. I'm worried about your family, your reputation, that kind of stuff. Which is the crux of all of this. And so I like that when Big Nung says, no, it's not just like a hookup thing. Like, she's my entire world. And does that fact make you more open-minded about what you just saw? More open-minded about our age gap, our situation? That's what she's asking Auntie Nim. And, excuse me. So what she's saying is, like, does the fact that this person makes me happy, change your stance on this relationship. That's what she's actually asking Auntie Nim. Because Auntie Nim came at this knowing not a lot. Auntie Nim has seen some stuff with the two of them that's not great. So, like, she's kind of like, what is this? It looks like you kidnapped her the other night and dragged her upstairs. She didn't sleep on the sofa. Like, you guys are fighting. Like, what is like, exactly. It's like Auntie Nim doesn't understand, but she's seen some stuff that's questionable.
All over the place in this palace.
Right, exactly. So, like, Auntie Nim's like, I'm concerned. I'm seeing behaviors out of you.
It's the Katy Perry song, "You're Hot and You're Cold."
Right. Like, no, literally. Oh
is this relationship good, bad? Like, what is going on?
Right. So, like, Adam's like, I'm just worried. So, I like that Nueng asks this. Like, does the fact that she's my happiness, she's my world, does that change, like, make you more open-minded about this? Does that change your stance on what you just, the judgment of my relationship? I find this line of questioning very interesting, first of all, because what she's kind of asking is, like, does love conquer all? As basically, that's what her statement boils down to. Which is little Nueng's mentality for their relationship. Anytime Big Nueng brings up, like, you know, love might not be enough, there's all these other factors, blah, 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 little Nueng's always like, no, love conquers all. Like, what are you talking about? So it's interesting that Big Nueng adopted that mentality in this conversation. Okay, because here it's almost like she's admitting, without admitting, that Big Nueng wants to believe their love will survive all these hardships that they're facing, like, no matter what. But Big Nueng is scared at the end of the day that, like, it won't be enough. That what if my pessimism is correct, right? She wants to be the optimist, like little Nueng is, but she's still like, I live in the real world, like, what if, you know? What if love isn't enough? And so it's fucked up, but, like, she knows in the back of her head she might lose little Nueng to all this nonsense. And I think the possibility terrifies her, but also motivates Big Nueng to fight fiercely for this relationship when she's able to. So when this opportunity with Auntie Nim presents itself to defend their relationship, she does. She does to the fullest extent of, you know, by flat out admitting, like, she's everything to me. Like,
I feel like this is the first time she's kind of getting, like, quote, lost in love. Like, yeah, she sees little Nueng's optimism. She wants to be more like little Nueng, and she's hoping that it works. There's always going to be that little voice in the back of her head, like, what if it doesn't work out? You'll lose everything. And, you know, let's try not to listen to that voice. But, you know, that voice can get very loud. But this is the first time that she's like, okay, well, let me try. Let me try to see if love will be enough.
Ultimately, Big Nueng agrees at the end of the day. She's like, I'll abide by the palace rules and be discreet with this relationship. But she doesn't ever agree to stop seeing little Nueng.
She would never.
She would never. But Big Nueng reiterates in this conversation that she doesn't care if the palace staff doesn't accept your relationship. She's like, if you can't accept this, that's fine. I don't expect everybody to understand. She's like, I'm fine with people who don't understand this. And then she says, but this is my life. Like, and I love that she not only defends their relationship in this conversation, Big Nueng sticks up for herself, which I think is extremely important, especially coming off of 202, where we had that whole conversation about song, and little Nueng's like, you gotta forgive yourself, give yourself some credit. So I like that Big Nueng took that advice and is using it here to, like, defend herself, okay? The person that's had this self-deprecating streak ever since she left the palace, here she is defending herself, which I think is huge. And by doing so, she's standing firmly in her decision to date little Nueng because it is her life, and she's not going to waste it trying to please everybody else, especially when they can't tell her what they want, right? And to do so would be at the expense of her own happiness. And this was Sam's literal plotline in Gap, the series, and Big Nueng, again, was the one that intervened to advocate for Sam's happiness. So I love the parallels there, because Sam has given her the advice in this show to be like, you got to go for what you want. Like, you got to put yourself first sometimes. Like, sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that is the right move. Like, but really the show for me is about, like, finding balance with all of those things, because extremes of one or the other are rarely a good thing. Like, temporarily maybe, but in the long run, like, extremes are never a good thing.
I think that because they're both basically acting like that person for each other in each show, that it's a lot easier to give the advice than to take it. And that's true for a lot of things.
It's true, but also like where the characters were coming from in both scenarios, like the character that was giving the advice had just gone through that and it worked out for them. So like for example, in Gap the series, when Big Nung gave the advice to Sam, like, Sam, you gotta chase your own happiness. Fuck the grandmam. Big Nung was saying that because she's like, I left the palace and I'm happier. It worked out for me. You should do it too. And then in Blank the series, when Sam is giving the advice to Nung, like, don't worry about what other people are saying. If this relationship makes you happy, go for it. Look at where Sam's at. That's what she did with Mon, and now they're married and like the happiest people on earth. So it's because the character went through that to give the advice. It's not just that they're saying, hey, this is what you should. It's because they're like, hey, look at me. I'm the example of that working out. Like, I want that for you too, you know? So that's kind of where the sisters were coming from when they were giving their respective advice in each show. So like, it makes sense. But Nung's journey wasn't over in Gap. It's the problem.
Yeah, no, not if all of this was about to happen.
Correct, yeah. Okay, so I want to get into some different parallels that I love. So the next thing that Nung says after she's like, this is my life. And she says, I've realized what's the most important thing in my life. And parallel us back to episode 105 in Blank, when little Nung, remember she was sending the voice recordings, and she sent the one voice recording where she was recording Pluto, the weird Pluto passage, the Satan one, where she says, basically she boldly told Big Nung, I would never make a deal with the devil like the person in this book because I would never risk the most important thing in my life. And then she asked Big Nung, do you know what the most important thing in my life is? And that's when Big Nung was like hanging on her every word, being like, oh my God, what is it? And little Nung very boldly and proudly proclaimed, it's you. You're the most important thing in my life. So let's go all the way back to season 1 where like little Nung knew Big Nung was the most important thing in her life and was saying it, which is why little Nung fights so fiercely for the relationship, right? So now, and the Big Nung heard that, got that little heart pitter patter, right? She's like, oh, this is doing things to me. But now let's jump forward to 203, and here's Nung finally at the point where she's like, she is the most important thing. Now we're on the same page. Like, and I can fully admit that out loud. And Big Nung is admitting it not just to anybody, it's to her surrogate parent in this conversation, that little Nung is the most important thing in her life. And she's not willing to risk that to abide by arbitrary rules, which is huge.
Yeah. This whole conversation is just a lot. And it's definitely a lot for Big Nung. Because at the end of the conversation, when Auntie Nim walks away, Big Nung is left alone. I mean, again, on this big balcony with emptiness surrounding her. And she just sighs. And I feel like part of it is just like, I just did that. I was able to say how I was really feeling to somebody. But she is also stressed out from everything that's going on. She just wants it to be easier.
To be fair, though, like, yeah, this was stressful, but this was the easier of the family conversations. Because who has the power in this scenario? She does. She's the head of the household. There is no grandmam. If there was a grandmam, this is a different story, because Nung, it would be second to the grandmam. Nung is number one, literally, in this whole house. And so Auntie Nim really doesn't have a lot of authority over her. It's more so a out of respect for you kind of conversation that they were having. But if Auntie Nim didn't approve of Big Nung and Little Nung, it literally changes nothing. It just makes it awkward to be in the house. But, like, ultimately, Nung can fire you. Like, it changes nothing. Versus, like, if Nung was having this conversation with Little Nung's grandmother, the stakes are way higher because that's an actual authority figure who has authority over their relationship. But Auntie Nim doesn't. So while this was stressful, this was fairly low stakes conversation. It may not feel that way because they're, they have an existing relationship and stuff, but, like, truly Auntie Nim has no actual hold over Nung. So there's that. But yeah, it's stressful to confront people, who don't understand your relationship. What I find interesting, though, is the visual of her alone on the balcony. So when you mentioned she sighs like she's stressed out, and she's like leaning on the balcony, overlooking kind of like the foyer or whatever. It's a really interesting shot because this is the shot from Gap, right, where it was looking up. The Grand Man was there in Gap. Mm-hmm. But now we get this upward angle looking at Big Nung, who's in the position of power because, you know, she's the head of the family now. She is the figure of authority in the palace, like the queen, right? She's the queen of the palace. So therefore, really, she is in a position now to make her own decisions despite the precedent the Grand Man laid out. Like, she could follow tradition or she could go a different path. She kind of, like, has some leeway with that because, like, she's in charge, right? So the other part of this conversation, too, that I liked is it was really, like, Big Nung establishing herself as the new head of the household with Auntie Nim. Because Auntie Nim comes in there and is like, well, your predecessor wouldn't approve. And Nung's like, I'm in charge now. So I think that, like, that was good because I think she's, as head of household, has been kind of living in the shadow of the Grand Man when it comes to the palace staff and things like that. So I like that this is Nung kind of emerging, being like, I'm the new leader. And I think that Nung establishing herself as the leader is important because, and the way she did it was good because she was, like, respectful about it. She wasn't a dick about it. She could just be like, I'm in charge now. You do what I say. But she wasn't. She was like, listen, this is my stance. This is my life. I'm going to keep doing this thing. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. You can keep working here and I don't mind that. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm telling you, this is my happiness. I'm going to do it. That's just what's going to happen now in this house. Like, I do like the way she says that because it shows that, like, she is, you know, she is the head of the household. And the other thing I love about the visual of her on the balcony is that she's alone. Like, Auntie Nim's gone at this point when, like, she's sighing on the balcony. And to me, it kind of shows, like, if Nung were to actually cave into doing people pleasing, which is what Sam did, she would be so alone in this giant empty house. And for what? To please the palace staff at her own expense? Like, what kind of life would she really have there? She'd be literally back where she started as a kid, unhappy in this environment, you know?
Yeah. I was looking at this photo that you have here. And again, I know we've talked about that they've shown the shot in Gap, but to me, it kind of seems more powerful here. I don't know. Maybe it's the lack of spotlights going on. Definitely. That, like, take you out of the scene. But it's pretty dark in this palace. Like, you have the big chandelier on, but the interesting thing is that the light is basically just where Big Nung is right now. And everything surrounding it is dark. And I feel like it kind of represents how she is back, but she isn't the same anymore. She is happier and brighter with little Nung with her. But when she's in the palace, that darkness of the past still surrounds her. So, yeah, it's confining her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, part of the struggle is, like, lighting up the entire house, like, metaphorically with their relationship. And it's, you know, I think Nung says it in this episode where she's like, it's going to just take time. Like, it's not going to be like you flip a switch and all the lights are suddenly on, metaphorically speaking. It's like we have to individually go turn every fucking light switch on. And that's going to take time. But in the end, it'll be worth it, right? So, yeah, it's the start of the journey is this conversation right here dealing with, like, her surrogate parent.
Yeah, it's a long journey. But we'll get there in 20 years. Okay, so the next morning, Little Nung and Big Nung are talking, and Little Nung emerges from the bathroom, and she is looking very guilty. Meanwhile, Big Nung is lingering in the room, just waiting patiently for Little Nung to wake up, because they do have to talk.
Okay, let's talk about this. So first of all, they're in Little Nung's room, her private quarters, okay? And Big Nung got up way before Little Nung, which I don't think happens. Little Nung seems like the early bird for me, and Big Nung is like sleeps till noon. That seems like their dynamic.
Like there was a song Nightmare at 4 a.m. and
I don't think so. I think that Big Nung was worried about Little Nung and then woke up early. And Little Nung's also hungover, so she probably slept later than normal. And Big Nung was literally waiting in her room. So she went and waited in like the living room area of Little Nung's quarters, so that when Little Nung woke up to go find Big Nung's already waiting for her. And like dressed. She's like ready to go. She's like, I'm ready for the day. And like Little Nung's in pajamas. Like she literally just woke up and like wandered into the living room. And their body language immediately is very interesting and super different. Big Nung just looks happy to see Little Nung, and Little Nung's like cowering. Like she's bracing herself for the morning after fight, right? And I want to note something before we get into the rest of the scene, is that it's worth noting that Big Nung uses her, quote, cute voice this entire conversation, like the whole conversation, okay? There's nothing angry at all about her in the scene. Like, she's just like, I get it. And Little Nung apologizes immediately. She's like, look, I'm sorry about last night. I didn't mean to. Like, she was just jealous, upset, frustrated, and it just all kind of came out.
Emphasis on frustrated, because the whole thing is very frustrating.
It is, and I think Big Nung knows that. And the way Big Nung's like looking at her when she's saying this, it's very clear that like she gets all, like she understands why Little Nung did all that. And I think it's because Big Nung at this point understands her own feelings at this point and is equipped to empathize with Little Nung in this scene and empathize with the behavior she saw last night. And over the course of this relationship, Big Nung learned emotional maturity, and she demonstrates it fully in this conversation with Little Nung, which is beautiful and huge.
All the conversations keep getting more and more healthier, and it's so beautiful, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because season 1 would have just been shutting down, sabotaging. Now it's understanding.
Yeah, and if this were Gap, it is the Sam and Mon, they'd be fighting.
Yeah.
But, like, there's nothing confrontational about this. It's just, like, I already understand. Like, you don't need to explain this to me. Because Big Nung knows why Little Nung got drunk and why she acted out. And she witnessed Little Nung act immaturely when she's upset before. Let's go back to the Waffle House scene where she was, like, assaulting folk and shit like that. Like, she's seen her irrational before when she's upset, because Little Nung usually has the brain cell. She's usually very rational about stuff, except when it's like she's triggered and jealous and like very upset. And Big Nung, I think, knows that. And I think that if the roles were reversed and Big Nung was at Little Nung's podcast opening or whatever, and there were people openly courting Little Nung in front of her, she would also be really pissed off. Like, I think because she can empathize now. She's like, I understand this would also piss me off. I think that's why the whole night at the gala opening, she was not paying attention to anything. She was just looking at Little Nung like, I am so sorry about this. Like, I would be upset too. I think she could finally put herself in Little Nung's position and remember, Little Nung, do you ever think about how I feel? She's like, I think I understand now how you're feeling, because I understand how I would feel in this scenario.
I mean, she has this, well, first of all, she's had the same thoughts before, but she's having some of the same thoughts that night as well, because Big Nung wants to be able to show off Little Nung just as much as Little Nung wants to be shown off.
Right.
Because I feel like if they were fully public that night, Big Nung would have just been like pushing Little Nung into the spotlight, even though it's her gallery. I feel like it would be like about the both of them, not just Big Nung.
Yeah, I don't think she would push her into the spotlight, because Little Nung hates the spotlight, but I think she would like let Little Nung hang on her arm the whole night, basically.
Yeah.
She would parade her around the gala while she's like doing her thing. Yeah, so like you said, like Big Nung also does not want to hide their relationship either. She's been very vocal about that. And I think part of her is relieved, like with the Auntie Nim catching. I think last night, the whole thing with Auntie Nim where she's like, you want to do this? Let's do this. I think part of her is also like, I'm tired of hiding this in my own house. And so I think now that Nim knows and the rest of the staff, they're going to gossip. Let's be real. The palace staff is going to start. One of them knows, they all know. And she's like, the whole house knows.
We've
now.
seen this in the Loyal Pin at this point.
It's so fast, the gossip train. So I think part of her is relieved that they don't have to hide in the palace anymore. Like, the palace can now transition into their home versus a place where they were still closeted. Okay. So then, after Big Nung's like, it's okay, they transition into, like, Auntie Nim. She's like, it's all right. No, I'm not mad at you. And Auntie Nim's not mad. Auntie Nim was just worried. And Lil Nung's like, what do you mean? Worried? Worried about what? And Big Nung says, I think a bunch of stuff got deleted.
About the Waffle House incident.
Basically, Big Nung says, oh yeah, she's just worried. Big Nung, I forget, I think my notes got erased.
No.
The line was,
Here, let me just check something real quick then.
It's fine. I can remember it. Okay. So, what it translates to is like, Auntie Nim was just worried that I was deceiving somebody younger than me. And I think that what it's actually translating as, I think deceived means seduced in this context. And she's like, she's worried I was seducing a younger woman. And Little Nung gets her confidence back immediately. She's like, well, did you clarify to Auntie Nim that the younger woman was the one seducing you the whole time? That is their dynamic, and I fucking love that.
I love her. The confidence and audacity just exuding from her from the very beginning. It's just, so I would love to be that confident.
But it's true. She's like, I'm the one that seduced you. So, like, you dare take credit for this. She wore her down from day one. Can I move in with you? Like, yeah. Little Nung
if Angie didn't saw what was going on, she would have been like, oh, I get it.
Big Nung. Who can blame her? Exactly, Little Nung. Good job. You did a great job. Art of Seduction. You should write that book. Okay, so Big Nung clarifies after we get, because she was teasing Little Nung and then was like really, she's just worried that people are going to judge us, like judge this relationship. Like the royal family is going to get judged by extension. And Little Nung's like, can we stop talking about other people and what they think about us? And Big Nung's like, I'm not here to fight with you about this. I'm just letting you know that was the scenario. And she says out loud, like, sooner or later, people are going to know about us. And I love how Big Nung is basically saying, I'm not telling you any of this stuff to argue with you about what other people think about this. I'm telling you this so that you're prepared for what will happen when people know about us. So this is confirmation to Little Nung that, like, Big Nung's like, we're going to go public with our relationship at some point. I just want you to be prepared for the backlash that's going to happen based on what we just experienced with one person in this house. Because Big Nung's objective was always to protect Little Nung from the bullshit. Right? And so she's like, I just want you to be careful, okay? Because she's worried about her. And says, like, can you please just sleep in this room, in your room, away from me for just a couple of nights until the dust of the gossip kind of settles. And before Little Nung can properly protest this, like she would, Big Nung in her cute voice is like, please, my good girl, please. And Little Nung is visibly losing her shit the whole time Big Nung is doing this because, holy hell, Big Nung's literally begging her to do something. And then the good girl line, the good girl nickname, forget it. She's like, fine. You're pet naming me in the cute voice. You know that I'm going to lose this argument. And then she's like, fine, because you're being cute right now. It's the only reason I'll do this. And Big Nung's like, who's cute? No, I'm never cute.
If Big Nung didn't catch her off guard with this, Little Nung would have, like, negotiated something and was like, okay, well, if I sleep there, then I have to sleep, like, on top of you 3 nights in a row.
I think the reason she didn't play the give a mouse a cookie game is because Big Nung already gave her the biggest cookie on earth by saying we're going to go public with our relationship at some point. Like, Little Nung already won, because remember, that's the thing she's insecure about. That was literally the root of the whole jealousy thing at the gala opening, because they can't go public. And Big Nung's like, it's going to happen. I need you to be prepared for backlash that's going to happen. So, like, this is going to be a process because there's going to be backlash. So I think Little Nung's like, I win. She already won. And she's like, okay, what's a couple of nights versus forever, you know?
Yeah.
So then Little Nung, I think this is just Yoko doing this, not even Little Nung. So Little Nung's like, okay, fine, I'll agree to do this if I can hug you. And then before Big Nung can say anything, she launches herself at Big Nung and just like,
well, according to
hugs
this audition
her.
tape, yes, it was Yoko.
It was just Yoko. Yeah, this is Yoko being Yoko. Just being like, can I do this? Does it immediately. So Big Nung can't even say any words. And she's like, God
It's
damn
just
it.
her way of warning her what's going to happen.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to hug you. I'm surprised she even said anything. Just launched herself. And Big Nung is so, like, enamored and just in love that she's basically like, well, because you hugged me, now I owe you a cheek kiss. And Little Nung's like, tilts her head and she's like, yes, please. It's so cute. All right. I love them. They're ridiculous. And then they like kind of like zoom out and we see like them hugging. Okay. We get more of the room. And then I noticed something in this room that I thought was really interesting. If you look in the corner, there's a new easel and a blank canvas in Little Nung's room, which means that Big Nung set this up so she could hang out in there probably while Little Nung's studying. So,
or it's because Little Nung still wants her to keep drawing her. So they're like, okay, well, if we have an easel in every house, it'll make it easier to just keep drawing you over and over and over.
It could be, but if you look, there's like completed paintings in here that aren't Little Nung. So I think that Big Nung does this so she can just be near Little Nung while she's studying because they're codependent. So not only did they U-Haul into the palace, they have mutually U-Hauled into each other's private quarters, which is very cute.
That is cute. It's not enough just to live under the same roof.
No, they literally just like spending time together when they're just living their lives, which is adorable. And I love that about them.
It's very domestic of them. Okay.
They're very domestic, yeah.
But now we get to have an awkward breakfast with Auntie Nim.
We sure do.
While Auntie Nim is icing out Little Nung. Because Auntie Nim is just not happy with what's going on. There was expectations put in place. She's like, we're following them. That's all she knows as well. Like, that's the rules in the palace. Anyway, Little Nung is hurt by Auntie Nim's actions towards them. Like, she also wants to be accepted in this place. Like, this is now her new home. She technically does not live here yet, but she does live here. And Big Nung witnesses this and looks really concerned because she's worried about the rejection. She's worried about how Little Nung will handle it as well. This whole thing is just not a great situation for them, and obviously they don't want to be in it. They want everyone to accept them. But this is what Big Nung has been worried about since the very beginning.
Yeah, and it's really sad because so like when they're sitting down to get served breakfast basically, and Auntie Nim gives the plate of probably congee to Little Nung, and Little Nung says thank you. Auntie Nim just looks at her and says nothing. Like the woman who's like, again, palace rules is being polite and all these things, just completely ices out Little Nung and doesn't even like say you're well, like nothing, no politeness at all. She just says nothing and leaves. And Big Nung, the way she watches this and is like, oh, it's like she's watching her girlfriend get rejected. Like, that's hard. And, like, to come from her surrogate parent of all people, that hurts Big Nung. And then, like, she's watching Little Nung, like, actively deflating in front of her. Like, all the happiness just, like, drains from Little Nung's face. Like, as she's actively getting rejected by Auntie Nim. In what should be a safe space, right?
Yeah. So Big Nung grabs Little Nung's hand to give her a little bit of comfort, to just remind her that she's there with her, that it will be okay. It's just an unfortunate situation.
But it's reality. So to me, this is a good example of the Nungs receiving a less than positive reaction from their relationships. This is what Big Nung's been worried about the whole time. So for all like Little Nung's talk about how we should just ignore what other people think, like deep down, she wants acceptance. That is the thing that she really wants. She wants to be accepted for who she is. And I think she does want acceptance for their relationship. And Big Nung knows that and sees it here. That is why Little Nung deflates when she gets the negative reaction from Auntie Nim. And I think that it really bothers Big Nung that she can't just fix this so that Little Nung's immediately happy. I think knowing how hurt Little Nung is by other people's lack of acceptance is one of Big Nung's driving motivators to make sure Little Nung's family accepts them. Because look at how sad Little Nung is, okay? And also Big Nung knows from personal experience how much lack of acceptance from your own family hurts. That's like partially why she was so mad at her grandmother, because like they loved each other deep down, but it's like her grandmother couldn't accept her, and she never got that acceptance. And that's something that's going to haunt her forever. So to me, like I've been saying over and over again, I think Big Nung is trying to spare Little Nung from the like pain she's dealing with from her past, and like so that Little Nung doesn't have to ever deal with this. Because like Big Nung said, Little Nung is my happiness, and when Little Nung is happy, she's happy. So to see Little Nung not be happy, she's like, it kills her that she can't just fix it immediately. And I like when she grabs her hand over the table, because she doesn't say anything. She just grabs Little Nung's hand and holds it. And to me, that's a gesture of saying, like, we'll get through this together. And I think that kind of support is what Little Nung needs. And I think that gesture means a lot to Little Nung. So then after she grabs her hand, the camera pans to Little Nung's face, and you watch her try to put on a smile for Big Nung, but it falls very short. And like, again, that has to kill Big Nung, like to see the bright, bubbly person not be bright and bubbly. And so then they go back to eating their breakfast, and both of them just look very lost in thought over all of this. Because for Big Nung, I think in her brain, she's like, okay, let's test this shit out, like our relationship coming out with my family. Because the stakes are lower, like I said. So if it goes poorly, whatever. These are palace staff. They're not actually family members. I have Sam. That's all I care about. That's my sister. So I think here, it did not go well. And there's consequences to that. And Little Nung's reacting poorly to the palace staff not accepting her. Not like Nung's actual blood relatives. So I think Big Nung is now lost in thought, being like, oh, fuck, well, when Little Nung's family finds out, they're definitely not going to accept this because the homophobia, I can see it. And like, oh my God, how are we going to navigate that? That's going to crush Little Nung. Meanwhile, Little Nung is at the table being like, well, I got to get them to accept me because how else am I going to move in? Like, so I think they're both kind of grappling with how do I get my partner's, quote, family to accept me, okay? Because for Little Nung, she's like, well, I have to be seen as worthy by the palace staff, and they don't see me as worthy. Because when Big Nung gets a phone call, I think a work call, and she goes away to take it, you start seeing Little Nung transition from being sad to like thoughtful, where she's like thinking, I think she's thinking this through, like, well, what can I do to like change the palace staff's mind? And like Auntie Nim's the head of the palace staff, so if you can schmooze her, you schmooze them all over, right? Because her goal is to gain acceptance, not just for herself, but like for Big Nung. Like, so each person's motivation is like for the other person, which is I really love. So I love this exchange between them. There's not a lot is really said, but it goes to show like their reactions to this, how like much they care about making the other person happy. And then they go in this episode, they each go out and try and do that to try to like get the other person's family to accept this, like, for their partner. So like, again, their partnership is always on display as this actual partnership thing, which I love about them.
That is very true. It's an actual partnership.
It's an actual partnership.
So after breakfast, Big Nung drops Little Nung off at university. Like a good girlfriend. Like,
she's a gentlewoman.
They're just very, very cute because they're always together when they can be. She's like,
yeah,
that is why she keeps driving her. She's like, I can be with you every little second. And the car, I feel like, is the most safe place for them. There literally cannot be anyone else in there unless they know about it.
No, I agree. I think that's why later when Chet's like, I'm getting her a car, Nung's like, crap, that's my alone time with her. No. Like, yeah, that's literally why she drives her.
She knows that Little Nung would be like, hell no.
No, Little Nung feels the same way. She's like, no, I want her
Little
to drive
Nung's
me.
like, why would I need to drive? I have this
Big Nung.
beautiful Big Nung driving me around, and I can just stare at her. I don't have to worry about looking at a road.
And it's like the thought of like Big Nung waits for me to get out of school. Like, it gives her something to look forward to, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Big Nung's like, it's the best part of her day, really.
I think that Big Nung's motivation for that too, like, because Big Nung waits for nobody. I think she's like, I want to be the first person she sees when she gets out of school. I think that's what it is. Like, honestly, when you think about why they keep doing this, it's that. They just want to spend time together and be like, she saw me first out of school. Remember the glasses? She's like, how dare you show other people this? Like, I think she wants to be the first person Little Nung sees out of school.
So when they get to the university, Folk and Yui are waiting on the curb. And something I just love that they get to the university and Little Nung has people waiting for her. Like, there's finally people in her life that want to be there for her and care about her. And, like, yeah, technically other people care about her, but they're really, like, looking after themselves.
Correct.
Like,
the strings
they
attached.
They don't really fully care about her. But these three people right now are the ones who care about Little Nung the most. And Little Nung, and it also just shows why she is excelling more in university as well. She has people that care about her. Anyway.
She found her queer friend group. Let's be honest. That's what this is, right?
That's what you need. That is the turning point in everybody's life. I say that because once I got my queer friend group, my life became so much better. You need the queer group.
That's why queer people thrive in college. You just meet other queer people and they're like, yay! That's what happened to Little Nung. That's why she's like doing so good and she's never worried about, she's never stressed about school. She used to be stressed in high school. She is never stressed. She's just becoming who she's supposed to be.
Yeah. So Big Nung tells Folk and Yui to look after Little Nung. Because, of course, she does. They would do it anyway.
It's protective girlfriend behavior.
And then, before she leaves, I mean, she has to continue staring at Little Nung. Like, every single second. Like, she's driving off, and she's probably just still staring at her. Anyway.
She's more covert, because they have an audience right now. So she, like, doesn't stare.
They technically
she looks
don't
away.
Know right now.
She looks away a bunch of times. Then, right before she drives away, Big Nung very quickly looks at Little Nung and genuinely smiles. Like, she rarely genuinely smiles in public, staring at Little Nung. It lasts, like, a fraction of a second before she's like, oh, yeah, we're in public, and then drives away. But Little Nung loses her shit because Big Nung is being really fucking cute today. Like, out of nowhere. She's like, I thought we were going to wake up and break up, and, like, here was this morning came where she was, like, adorable the whole day, and then just smiled at me in front of my friends. Like, Little Nung can't believe it. So, like, when Big Nung drives away, she's just staring at the car as it's receding in the distance with, like, heart eyes on full display because she just can't believe it. Like, wow, girlfriend Nung? The best version of Nung. Oh my god.
Meanwhile, Folk and Yui are just like, something queer is going on.
They're just like, is she really excited about school today? This is weird. But, like, at the end of the day, Little Nung, this is a cute moment because she's young and in love, and it's really sweet. Like, this is what her life should be right now. Like, it's cute. She finally has, like, she can just bask in her feelings, which is really cute. I'm happy for her.
But does Little Nung know that Big Nung is about to go see Juan Viva at the gallery?
I mean, she might have. I wonder if... So, the problem with, like, this episode is when Big Nung gets the phone call, we don't know who called her. Was it Juan Viva being like, hey, there's some people that want to come buy stuff? Like, I assume it was a work call, but, like, did Little Nung know it was Juan Viva? I don't know.
Either way, Big Nung and Juan Viva go to a gallery to...
Go to Big Nung's gallery.
Yeah, go to Big Nung's gallery. Sorry. To close this big deal that these people are going to rent out the place for the entire year.
Yeah. Remember when Big Nung was like, I don't know if I'll make a profit. Here she is immediately like, well, it's booked for a year thanks to Juan Viva and her connections. And, like, We're 4 episodes into Affair. I still don't know how Juan Viva has these connections, but I would love to know why she knows a bunch of art people. And also,
she hung out at the mall long enough.
Oh my God.
She just keeps like running into people, starting conversations. I don't know.
I just would love to know the context of Big Nung and Juan Viva's friendship, which I don't know that we're going to get, but I would just love to know, how did they meet?
Doesn't seem like we're going to get it.
Who knows? Who knows? Like, I just would love to know more about the context of their friendship and, like, how did that kind of go down? Because she didn't meet her at the mall, let's be honest. All right, so then the big hedge fund managers or whoever just bought out this gallery leave, and then Juan Viva and Big Nung are talking about it, and Big Nung's like, well, basically being like, thank you for helping me make this gallery a success, because, you know, she was concerned about that. And Juan Viva's like, well, you can repay me with, oh my God, this exchange. She's like, you can repay me with a private class. And Nung's like, why are you telling me this? Do you want to get started right now? And it's like, is it just me, or did this sound like flirting? Like, I know for Big Nung it's not, but if Little Nung knew about this particular exchange and she overheard this after, like, just flipping out the prior night, like, she would murder Juan Viva and probably Big Nung. Let's be honest.
This is absolutely flirting, and Little Nung would definitely hate it.
Yes.
The thing is, I don't think Big Nung knew this was flirting.
No.
I think that this is just her personality with friends.
Right, with Juan Viva, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like, she matches the other person's personality when she's with them.
I think they just have a flirty friendship is what it is. And Lil Nung's like...
And I don't think Juan Viva means any harm by it either.
I don't think so. No, at this stage, Juan Viva has her girlfriend, so she would never. But, like, yeah, I think they just have a flirty relationship, because Juan Viva seems pretty extroverted to me. Anyway. But, yeah, Little Nung, if she overheard that, would have murdered both of them on the spot. Okay, so then they're talking, and Juan Viva's like, okay, well, instead of, like, giving me a, quote, private lesson, whatever that means, why don't you just, like, tell me what's going on with you and Chet? And Big Nung's like, what? What do you mean, me and Chet?
Asshole, why are you bringing up that?
Right, what the hell are you talking about? Juan Viva, are you okay? Juan Viva's like, you don't know? Because you're involved. What do you mean you don't know?
Like, how do you not know?
How do you not know? So she pulls up this, like, internet article or something. I don't even know. That basically, there's an article out there in the news saying that, like, Big Nung, the ML, Sipicorn, and Chet, the wannabe prime minister or whatever, are, like, back together or whatever. And, like, we get this, like, on Juan Viva's phone, the photo they used, and, like, okay, I'm sorry. This photo looks like it's AI, because there's no way Big Nung posed for photos with Chet ever. They're, like, in opposite frames. It looks, there's a divider. I'm like, this looks Photoshop. This looks like AI put this together.
This isn't supposed to be them together. This is the typical tabloid where they have, like, one photo of the one person, the other photo of the other person. Yeah. It was never supposed to be them in the same room.
It looks like AI to me. Well, because, like, they were together in the past, and they look younger in these photos, so I'm like, this is, like, a past photo. But it also looks like AI, where they're just, like, grabbed images and put it together. We're like, yeah, we'll fabricate a relationship. So, anyway. So that happens, and Big Nung's like, oh, sweet lesbian Jesus. This is out there for the entire world to see, and Big Nung only cares about one person in this world finding it out. So, cut over to that one person who is at school, I don't know, outside studying, where Yui comes along, and Yui's like, hey, actually, no, they're studying, and Yui's like, oh, shit, you should see this. What the hell is this? And Yui shows Little Nung the article that Juan Viva was just showing Big Nung. And I don't know why Yui cared enough to do this, but anyway.
Yui has a Google alert, because Yui cares about her friend. I don't know.
I think you were just scrolling and was like, oh, fuck. Because, like,
it's probably huge news.
That's what I mean. It's royal family shit and, like, prime minister politics. This was probably trending in Thailand, I would assume, the minute it released. And Dewey's like, oh, shit. Isn't this your dad and Big Nung? And Little Nung, her reaction to looking at this reads as like pissed off. Like she's pissed off that the world is going to think that Big Nung is dating somebody else. So once again, this could all be avoided if they could go public with their relationship right now, which is like right now is what Little Nung wants despite the backlash and stuff. But like, so she's frustrated. She's like, damn it, again? It's all because of last night. Somebody saw them, like he gave her flowers and all the bullshit. She's like, fucking hate this. She's just, the points of like, good Chet, bad Chet, like Little Nung, it's just all, she's like, fuck that guy. I can't believe I'm related to this bitch. Like,
but like the thing is, not only is it someone else, it's her dad.
I know.
Which is worse because
it's
now like,
so much worse.
Find out about their relationship. Can you imagine everybody's reaction to this? Because everyone knows that she was supposed to get married to him.
Right. That's a whole other part of this relationship that's messed up and fucked up and why they have to be careful about this. Because, yeah, Big Nung isn't with Chet. She's with her, like, 20-year-old daughter. Like, it's so much worse. If the tabloids got a hold of their relationship, forget it. Like,
oh my gosh. And if they ever found out about Pigfoot, they'd have their own murder board.
No, like, literally. That's what I mean. And like in this episode too, you'll see like Little Nung, again, it's reinforced, she hates being in the spotlight. And like part of Big Nung is that she's a famous person by birth. So like when their relationship comes out, it's gonna make her famous. Like that's part of it. And that's also scary for somebody who like doesn't want that. That's a whole nother component of their relationship they don't actually get into in the show. But like, how does Little Nung feel when it's like suddenly she's a household name? Because you know what I mean? Like, that she's dating the queen. Like, she's going to marry the queen. Like, that comes with that territory. And we never get into that. But I feel like that would make Little Nung also really uncomfortable. And, like, yeah, Big Nung wants to stay out of the spotlight. But, like, there's only so much of that you can do when it's, like, public knowledge that, like, this famous person is dating this other person. You know what I mean?
She also has a podcast, which I don't think she fully understands that when you have something like that, people are gonna know you. But anyway,
she ain't got a video podcast. She does audio only, so that's different. So yeah, so bottom line is that Little Nung is upset at the Chet Nung bullshit story, as she should be.
Yes,
I'm upset.
So what do we do when we're upset? We go visit the emotional support lesbians.
We sure do.
And stop at this grocery store to get limes first.
Absolutely. And so Big Nung is over with Mon and Sam. And Big Nung is chewing on her thumb. Lost in thought. Because she's worried as fuck. And Sam is like, Nung, stop biting your nails. And Nung has the audacity to be like, I wasn't biting my nails. And Sam's like, I literally just I just pulled your whole thumb out of your mouth 3 seconds ago. Juan's my witness. What do you mean you weren't doing this? You really were. And again, the brain cell sharing thing. Let us go back to 106 when like Little Nung was waiting for the university results and she was literally chewing on her thumb and Nung's like, don't do that. They both do that when they're really worried about something. So they share that in common in case you missed that. Okay. But again, speaking of brain cells, so the only person in this scene who has a brain cell is Mon. So Mon reads Big Nung's behavior as worried, and she's like, you seem upset about something. And then Big Nung, obviously, she's really distracted and asks the stupidest question of all times, which is, hey, Sam, Mon, have you two ever had a fight before?
Someone needs to send a copy of Gap to Big Nung. If they can read blank, they can watch Gap.
Right. Or the Gap novels, probably, Little Nung could probably get it for her podcast. Yeah, Big Nung has clearly never seen or read Gap because Sam and Mon fighting was the plot of Gap the series. So
pain was the plot.
Little Nung should really read Big Nung the Gap novel because or novels, there's more than one. Anyway, in all seriousness, I think this question reveals how Big Nung sees her sister's relationship. Okay, that's what this is really revealing. She thinks Sam and Mon are the perfect couple. And they're always in the show from what we see and from what Big Nung sees, because she didn't see the Gap stuff. they're always like very loving around each other. So from and supportive. And so from an outsider's point of view, they look like a couple that always gets along. So that's how she perceived their relationship. And she's like, have you ever fought? Because like, I don't get that vibe from you guys.
No, not when you need so many limes with them. But
right.
Yeah. So you can take this one.
So basically, Mon's like, okay, do you and Little Nung fight? And Big Nung's like, no, we don't fight. And they really don't. Like, you watch the two of them, they're just like, I'm just going to do art while you're reading. Like, they don't fight with each other. Big Nung's like, no, there's always something else that comes up that makes us uneasy. Or that, like, uneasy being, like, affects the relationship. And by uneasy, it's usually Big Nung getting in her head about shit, right? And... oh my god. Sorry, I didn't fully like go into all of the steps of these. Okay, so I wrote my notes. Okay, so basically she's like, no, we don't fight with each other. It's just something else is like an outside force is like influencing our relationship, and that's what causes problems. And then Nung's like, what the hell did you guys ever fight about? Because again, you guys seem like the perfect couple. So Sam decides to lead this, which was a mistake. And Sam's like, well, you know, Nung, in the beginning, Mon would always like to fight with me over my ML status. And Mon's face, she's like, Sam, that is 100% not what happened in our relationship. What the hell are you saying? Because Sam's trying to like gloss over all of her bullshit that caused all the issues in their relationship.
Also, like, Mon never brought up her title.
No, it was, okay, the whole crux of their bullshit was... actually, yeah, like, Sam's ML status was the crux of the issue because the Grandmam traumatized Sam, so Sam couldn't express herself to save her life. So that was half of the problems in Gap. And then the other problem was the Grandmam. So, like, her title actually was the problem, but, like, Mon was never the one who was like, Sam, I can't date you because you're... oh, I guess Mon was, like... didn't feel worthy of Sam because of Sam's title. So maybe that's what she meant. And Mon's like, no, bitch, that was definitely not the main problem. The main problem was your ineptitude with your fucking feelings. And that's why you almost lost me and I almost went to Britain. And then Sam's like, no, but like I did chase after you. And Mon's like, I didn't know you were chasing me. And the whole time they're getting into this conversation, Nung is just watching them like, what the fuck can of worms did I just open? I don't want to know all this stuff.
She's like, they do fight.
Yeah, like, they're fighting in front of her, and also, like, Nung looks more and more bored as this keeps going, and then this is the thing where she puts the tea down, she's like, back to me, we're here to talk about me, I'm not here to get into whatever the hell this is.
We don't have time to go through 12 episodes of Gap right now.
Oh my god, so funny, but, like, it was funny, like, Nung's reaction to them fighting was really funny, because Sam's like, why did we get on this topic where I'm the bad guy, and Nung's just, like, drinking tea being like, I knew these bitches weren't perfect. Like, they have issues too.
Yeah, I think this was definitely needed for Big Nung to see, because it's easy to think that the people around you are perfect, especially when they're presenting themselves that way. Like, it's
hence
easier.
Instagram culture, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Where you're like, oh my god, you seem so perfect. It's like, yeah, I'm only showing the world the good parts, not the bad. Remember, Nung, you know this mentality. It's be perfect on the outside. Never let anyone see your weaknesses. Like,
it's your fault.
She fell for it. She fell for it when it came to Sam and Mon's relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is important because then Nung's like, well, if you guys have your issues and can get through it and survive the Grandmam, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they had to do their relationship with the Grandmam still alive.
Right, exactly. Nung spared Little Nung. Remember in 104, or 103, the Grandmam's like, who's this? And Nung's like, get out of here, Little Nung. You don't meet her at all. Get out of here. Nope, we're not doing this. We're not getting into this. Yeah, Big Nung spared Little Nung of all this bullshit. Absolutely. Okay, but I love this argument with Sam and Mon where they start arguing with each other over what happened at Gap, because it's peak them, where Sam's like, it wasn't that bad, and Mon's like, it was the worst thing in the world, Sam, you're an asshole, what are you talking about? And Sam's like, why are we fighting?
Mon's like, you were the one starting and ending every episode with crying.
Oh my god, I know, like, it's so them, like, just the way Sam's like, it was all Mon's fault. And Mon's like, it was your fault, Sam. What do you mean? Man's like, why are we fighting? But Big Nung eventually is just like, back to me. We're here to talk about me. We're not here to talk about Gap the series. So Big Nung gets into like why she's really worried, okay, and why she's talking about fighting. And she's worried that like Little Nung is gonna get sick and tired of all this drama when it comes to like her ML girlfriend's bullshit, right? Because like this is bullshit that comes with Nung just being who she is, right? The tabloid stuff. And when she does bring up the tabloid stuff to Sam and Ma, Sam's like, oh, I see, you're not actually worried about this rumor with Chet affecting you, you're worried about Little Nung and how she's gonna take this news. And Nung's like, yeah. So like she's like, I'm worried we're gonna get into a fight over this because again, this is something outside of my control that's gonna affect my relationship. I'm worried about this. And she's like, I'm worried we're gonna fight about this. And so she asks Sam and Mon, she's like, okay, you just gave me a demonstration that you guys do fight about stuff. I just watched you do it. Okay, but do you ever get sick and tired of this? Because it seems like you guys had a lot to work through I wasn't aware of. But like, do you ever get sick and tired of it? Like, just like fighting with each other over and over again? Obviously not, because they're still together. No, they're still together, and they fought a lot. So Mon explains, she's like in the moment you don't feel great when you're fighting, obviously, but like she's like, after we talk it through, then we understand where we're coming, each other's coming from, and we build a stronger relationship once we understand each other more, right? And then Sam has fuckboy energy in this scene for some reason. And Sam is like, listen, Nung, really what it is that I'm really good at getting Mon to forgive me. And Big Nung's face when Sam says this, like, oh my God, she's like, I don't believe you at all, Sam. And like I think Nung is judging herself in this moment where she's like, I can't believe I've been taking advice from my sister. She's a fucking idiot. And she's like, I need new queer friends to talk to. Which, yeah, Nung, where's your queer friend group?
Seriously, no, she needs one.
She needs a queer friend group. I agree.
I would say go to gym, but I think that
also would say
be
that
even more useless.
This would be just as terrible. I think maybe Juan Viva could have helped you a little bit, but I don't know.
I would tell her to go to T, and then I thought, go find Cher and Rissa because you spent time on their property. And then I was like, oh my God, could you imagine the big gay energy if Big Nung and Cher hung out?
Oh my God, that would be
able
amazing.
To see it from space.
Yeah, that's a lot of big gay energy. The two of them. I mean, yeah. They were in a scene together, forget it. That'd be over. Actually, no. Those two actors have crossed paths and they know each other. And I saw clips of like those two actors, like Cher and Phi, like doing something together. It's so much big gay energy when they're in the room together. It's kind of insane. That'd be amazing. Where's their show of like a buddy cop show? God. They don't need to be together. They just need to be like buddy cops and then like have their own love interests.
I don't think they should be together. But
no.
The two of them, yes, like a buddy cop thing.
Buddy cop. They're best friends and
they're both like dealing with relationships and giving each other terrible advice and like just best friends.
I would love this, whatever this is.
I think we need to write this at some point.
That would be an amazing show. And then like, oh my God, yeah.
Oh, and then put Ingfa somewhere in it.
Ingfa could be like Cher's, the actor's love interest, and then like obviously Yoko is Phi's your love interest because you can't pair her. Their chemistry's too good. Like don't even bother with that. But yeah, I want some like ridiculous rom-com thing with the two of them as friends, and like that would be amazing. Because yeah, lots of big gay energy when they're in the room together. Amazing. Anyway, that was a very necessary tangent. Thank you, Big Nung, and your face. I just love the way she's like, my sister is a fucking idiot. Her face, because like. Sam is an idiot. Like, I love Sam. Sam and Mon their trope is idiots in love. That is one of my favorite tropes ever. That is their relationship. They're idiots. And I love that Nung is just like, why do I keep coming to you for advice? You're clearly a disaster. I'm asking you for advice. So funny. All right. And so then, like, yeah, this is when they're starting to argue and Big Nung's like, I'm really over you guys.
Yes. Okay, so then Big Nung finally reveals like what she's actually afraid of. She is worried that they're gonna fight and that they can't get through it because there's so much shit outside coming in on them. Like, they know that they can get through stuff together, any issue they have in their relationship. But, like, what happens when the weight of the world becomes too much? Yes. And then Sam is just being Sam once again. And she says, if verbal language doesn't work, then try using another language instead.
This was one of the funny. So I love how Sam does this. So hold on, I want to go back to like their like she's like, what if Nueng's like, what if we fight and I can't reconcile with her? Like, what if like it ends the relationship? I think the other reason she's bringing us up now, it's not just the Chet thing, but it's like they're gonna have to keep going through multiple battles like this. So I think Nueng's like, okay, it happened with Auntie Nim. She didn't seem super happy with that this morning. Now we're going to go through this again with Chet. Eventually the rest of her family's going to find out. Like, and we're going to have to keep going through this over and over and over again before we get to, like, a place where we're open and we can finally just be ourselves. And she's like, what if, like, we keep ending up in this cycle where we're fighting and, like, Little Nueng gets tired of it? Like, I'm prepared to go through this because Nueng's been thinking about this. She knows it's an uphill battle. She knows it's more than one battle to win the war, right? Metaphorically speaking. And so, like, she's ready for that. She's like, I'm worried that Little Nueng's gonna get bored and be like, you're not worth it, Nueng. You're not worth all of this stress. You're not worth, like, our relationship's not worth this. I'm tired. Like, she's worried about that. So she's like, I want to do my best to, like, keep talking through this with Little Nueng because I feel like we're not on the same page when it comes to the reality of the uphill battle we're facing. I think it's starting to sink in for Little Nueng, but she's like, I don't think she fully gets it. And I'm worried that after a while she's going to get bored of like having the same fight over and over again because like our situation is what it is. So she's like, what do I do if like I can't like win her over, like, and I can't fix the fight? So fucking dumbass, again, fuckboy Sam is like, come here, Nueng, I'll tell you. And she's like, well, if your words don't work, use a love language, basically. And to which Big Nueng hears, like, it takes her a minute to be like, oh, okay. And what Big Nueng hears is absolutely rail her to distract her. Got it. I can do that. I've done it before. But what Sam actually...
That is not the answer, by the way.
But listen, that's what Big Nueng hears. She's like, absolutely rail her. Got it. And then what Sam was actually meaning was like, no, like, just like pretend to be a dog or something. Like, do the be a sham. Like, that's what Sam was like. I use nonverbal language. She pretends to be a dog, and that's wins over. Remember, Mon cannot resist the sham thing. Anytime Sam's like, I'm sham the dog, Mon's like, whatever, Sam, I don't even know what we're arguing about. So that's what Sam actually meant in this conversation, and Nueng's like, sex, got it, sex. Sam's like, that's not what I meant. Because again, your sister's a dumbass, and you should not be taking advice from Sam.
Seriously, Mon needs to take control of this conversation.
Like, you know what Mon should have done? She should have taken the cookie and been like, stop talking, Sam. Like, feed it to Sam. Sam, stop talking. Don't listen to Sam. Don't listen to Sam. But the way Nueng interpreted what Sam was saying, because she's like, sex, got it. Yes, sex does work. And then Mom's like, God damn it, you two fucking sisters. I can't with the two of you. She gets embarrassed and like takes a cookie and gets out of there. Because Sam is the worst. She's like, why am I with you, Sam? And like she leaves. And I love that Sam and Nueng, like, then they tease Mon a little bit when she leaves. She's like, your wife is thirsty. I don't know. I'm like, have you met Little Nueng? Little Nueng's 10,000 times worse.
But no, I love the line because Big Nueng is like lowering her face like, I think Mon's hungry. And then they start laughing. I love it.
Like, girl's thirsty. I'm like, Nueng, what about your girl? Your girl would have been like, yeah, Nueng does that all. If Little Nueng was at this table, she'd be like, yeah, Nueng tries to do that now, and it doesn't work, Nueng. Damn it. Like, she would call her out for the sex stuff, like, to be like, she tries that with me, and it doesn't work. Anyway, because Little Nueng will be like, that was fun. Back to the fight. Like, damn it. So anyway, what I love about this conversation at the end, I love that Sam and Nueng are in a place where they can bond over stuff like this is like cheeky sister shit, and they're just like bonding, and it's very cute. Poor Mon's expense, but it's really, really cute. But I love that like Mon leaves, she's pissed off and at Sam, but Sam's not concerned. She's like, don't worry, I'll make it up to her later with some sham stuff. Like, it's like, God damn it, with this idiot. Sam's such an idiot.
Oh, she is.
All right. So that's part one. Let's get into part two. So after talking to the useless lesbians with their advice, Big Nung goes back to pick up Little Nung when her class is over. And she's posted up against the car, just like the bitch looks pressed. Like, she's very lost in thought. Like, what am I going to do? We're about to get into a fight. This is like what Little Nung was feeling in the morning, where she's like, we're going to fight. I'm mentally preparing myself for the fight. I'm mentally preparing to lose the fight. That was Little Nung. When she woke up this morning, she's like, I was in the wrong. I'm going to lose the fight. She's going to be mad at me. This is basically the same scene playing out with the opposite partner. So when Big Nung sees Little Nung approach, she notices Little Nung's alone. And she's like, oh, where are your friends? Are you, like, AKA, like, where are your bodyguards at? I left them with you.
I gave them clear instructions to protect you.
Protect you. Where are they at? Maybe I should pay them. So Little Nung's like, I ditched them. It's fine. And Big Nung's like, oh, okay. And then Little Nung gets into the car by herself. So as I brought up in the last episode, anytime Little Nung gets in the car, Big Nung opens the door, closes the door. She does her gentlewoman shit. So when Little Nung goes to the and opens, and they make eye contact, she's like, no, I'm doing this. You're not doing this. Little Nung doesn't say anything, just like very quietly, somberly gets in the car by herself. And Big Nung's very taken aback, because she's like, oh, she must be mad at me, like really mad, because I usually open the door and she's not letting me open the door. Oh shit, I'm in trouble. This is already going poorly. So then Big Nung gets in the car and they drive away. And the car is dead silent. Little Nung, who's always talking a mile a minute, is quiet. So, like, poor Big Nung. She's, like, losing it on the inside, because she's like, oh, fuck, this is going to be bad. And Big Nung keeps looking at Little Nung like, oh, no. All right, well, okay, you got to start somewhere. So Big Nung tries to start with small talk. She's like, how is school? And Little Nung's like, I saw the news. Like, does not engage. She's like, I saw the news. And Big Nung's like, fuck. She's like, it's nothing. I don't even know him. And
I don't even know him.
That was an AI photo. And Little Nung makes this face. She's like, is she for real right now? And then she's like, I know. You don't need to explain. It was my dad. You do not need to explain. Neither of us like him.
We've had multiple conversations of what a douchebag this dude is.
How little Nung thinks about this man. She's genetically related to. And just, like, leave it to Little Nung to constantly throw Big Nung off her game. Because she was, again, preparing for the fight. And Little Nung's like, what are you talking about? I don't care. Because Big Nung was not expecting this response at all. She was prepared to do all the groveling and engage in sexy shirt button games, do sham, whatever the hell she had to do to, like, get Little Nung to forgive her. She's like, she was psyching herself up for all of those things. And then Little Nung's like, I'm not mad. What the hell are you talking? What's wrong with you?
The thing is, I wasn't expecting this either. Because, like, when Little Nung got in the car, she looked like she was going to make Big Nung sleep in the driveway.
Right.
And I've been trying to figure out this reaction, and I just can't. Because I feel like her reaction should have been asking Big Nung, what the hell is happening? Like, what are we going to do with this, like, tabloid news? Especially, like, if she didn't believe that this was true. Like, this would make sense if she thought that there was some truth in it. But she knows that this would never be a thing.
Yeah, it's weird. I think Little Nung's just tired when she gets in the car. She's just like, because, like, she was drunk I don't think she slept last night. I think she was exhausted, went to school. Because at the end of the conversation, Big Nung's like, are you tired? And Little Nung's like, I'm really tired. I think she's just tired. And, like, so she gets in the car and she's not bubbly. She's just like, the class was a lot. I'm just tired right now. I was drunk this morning. Like, I'm tired. So, like, she didn't even react to this. And also, like, it's fake news and she knows it. And she's like, ugh, like, because look at what happened last night. Look what happened last night at the gallery opening. Like, she saw her, she was pissed off. She's like, my dad is openly courting my girlfriend in front of me. She, like, he gave her flowers. Juan V was like, is this your girlfriend? Can I take your girlfriend away? Like, so, like, of course this comes out. And it's like, ugh, like,
that's fair. Girl,
right?
Your dad is exhausting.
Your dad is exhausting. Oh my God. Big Nung has a conversation with him later. I was tired of just watching her have the conversation with him because he's an idiot. Oh my God.
And it's always the same thing. over and over
He
and over. Ow.
doesn't listen when people are talking to him. He does not listen. That is his issue. So it's repetitive because the bitch is not listening. It's like talking to a wall. Anyway, we'll unfortunately get there later. So Big Nung is like, wait a minute, you're not mad over the, because Big Nung is like, you flipped out last night about Juan Viva and your dad and all this bull. I don't think she even thought about Chet. I think she's more like Juan Viva, which, you know, the women.
Well, because Chet's not competition.
Exactly. I don't think anyone's thinking about him. And then this came out because we can't go public, and she's like, I thought you were gonna be mad, and you're not mad. Yeah. Lil Nung's like, I know you're not interested in Chet, because like, who the fuck would be interested in Chet? Like, who would want? Your mom was an idiot.
Reason why he's still single.
Why was Pigfoot into him? I think it was a desperate move. I don't think she was into him either.
That was definitely let's get over Big Nung thing.
Right. She was moving on. Yeah, exactly. That was a hookup, a rebound. He's a rebound.
And like she closed her eyes and. So, I mean, you can't really picture, but she, like, thought about Big Nung, was like, all right, let me just get through it.
Right. She closed her eyes and thought of Big Nung. Exactly. All right. So instead, a Little Nung immediately, like, lights up here because she's like, I mean, I'm not mad, but I think it's real cute. You thought I was going to be mad about this because Little Nung is more enamored by the fact that, like, Big Nung was worried about her reaction to this, like, obviously fake news. And so she's like, you're afraid I was going to be mad at you? And what I love in this conversation is that, like, without hesitation, Big Nung expresses her dark feelings. Remember the big conversation they had in 202? Big Nung is now more open about things that bother her with Little Nung. And she does it in this conversation where she just like pours her heart out. And she admits that like there's so many outside forces that are causing issues in our relationship. And she's afraid that Little Nung is going to get tired of all the drama and leave. Like that's what she's ultimately afraid of, Little Nung leaving her and like disappearing from her life. That she's terrified of losing Little Nung. So that's why she was freaking out so much about this and was like, Sam, what do I do if like the arguing doesn't work? Like she went to Sam. That's how scared she was.
Yeah, stupid idea, but I get it. You're like, maybe my sister will have good advice this time.
Yeah.
Always
because I think at the end of the day, Big Nung is a person who's drama averse, meaning like she hates confrontation. She hates drama. And she would get tired of all of this repetitive drama if the drama revolved around literally anybody else in her life besides Little Nung. You watched her in the conversation with Sam and Mon. The minute they started getting into their drama, she got bored so fast. She's like, I don't care about any of that. And you're my sister and I love you. I don't want to be involved in your drama. I'm already bored. It's been 3 seconds. So, like, imagine having to, like, listen to their fights over and over. She'd be like, I'm leaving. I can't with the two of you.
I have a Taylor Swift song. This is why we can't have nice things.
Oh, yeah.
Don't listen to all this drama. Anyway, continue. Before I forgot.
My song for this episode is Cardigan. I think that's a Big Nung, Little Nung song. For sure. Cardigan. Where it's like... Oh, shit. Hold on. I can't think of it. Well, first of all, Little Nung's perspective. I knew everything when I was young, and everybody keeps telling me, like, basically, like, you're too young to understand your feelings. And she's like, no, I knew even when I was young, like, you would haunt me my entire life, like, that you were the one, basically. And then from Big Nung's perspective, she's like, I was a cardigan under a bed, and you found me, or like, you're my favorite. Like, that's literally them. Like, and then Big Nung does the thing where, like, tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy, when, like, that's where we get later in the season, where she's like, no, like, you're better off without me. And Little Nung's like, no, I see what you're doing. I see you're trying to change the ending, and I know we end up together. Like, yeah, that's them. It's a very them song. Got it. All right. So, anyway, so Big Nung and Little Nung are in this. And, like, Little Nung, after Big Nung pours her heart out, she's like, ooh, now I'm actually going to get really mad. If you think that I'm going to leave you over this, like, we might actually get into an actual fight right now if you really think that of me, that I'm going to get tired of, like, fighting for our relationship, basically.
But, I mean, Little Nung did get in the car because she is exhausted. I mean, yes, she's tired. But, like, it is exhausting having to deal with Chet always becoming an issue. hopefully, I mean, I really hope that in like 20 years he's still not an issue. Like, he just hasn't accepted. Anyway, just continue.
Okay, so Little Nueng says basically like, we might actually get into a fight now. And I think that this is exactly Little Nueng's sentiment, which is why she immediately gets offended at the suggestion that she could ever get tired of fighting for their relationship. And the fact that Big Nueng would even think that is like what's going to cause the actual argument. Because she's like, have I not proved to you time and time again that like I'm 100,000,000% in this relationship? Like, what the hell? I'm going to argue with you for real if you think that I'm not. And then Big Nueng it basically admits she's worried about the future because she's like, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's what I'm worried about. Like, their future, okay? So can we talk about the fact that they never, on screen, have a direct conversation about what their relationship is? Like, they never actually have one, if you think about it, ever in this show. They both just casually mention things that strongly imply that the two of them think of each other as long-term partners. Like, yeah, Little Nueng, like, spouts out things like, we should get married one day, blah, blah, blah. But, like, they never sit down and talk about getting, like, they never have the conversation about it. They never sit down and go, what is our relationship? They never have that conversation. They just, like, through their conversations and through their casually mentioning things, you can see, like, the head spaces of both characters. So, like, yeah, Little Nueng being like, we should get married one day. That's where her head's at. We see it very early. But Big Nueng right here is like, I'm not really worried about this right now. I'm worried that, like, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, like, as we keep fighting for this. Like, indicating she thinks of Little Nueng as a long-term partner without saying it, right? Because, like, Little Nueng's been trying to get her to label the relationship, and Big Nueng doesn't, but she's saying things like this that indicate, like, what Big Nueng thinks about them. And the fact that they are actually on the same page with their relationship, even though they don't directly talk about it. So I do love that about them. Like, you can see through their actions, like, what they think about their relationship. And then after that, Little Nueng basically is like, oh, are you afraid? And then Big Nueng says nothing, which means yes. And so Little Nueng says, well, I'm also afraid. Like, I'm afraid that you're going to disappear from my life, which is exactly what Big Nueng is afraid of, even though she didn't just say that. That's why she's been freaking out all day. That is what she's worried about. So they both have one fear. They both have the same fear, which is that their respective partner is going to disappear. And, like, then they don't have the relationship anymore. And I think because Little Nueng can see just how worried Big Nueng is about their relationship in the future, she immediately reassures Big Nueng that she's not alone. She's like, I'm also afraid of this. Like, and, you know, like, the way we're going to get through this is together. Like, they have each other. And Little Nueng admits, like, I'm also scared. Like, they're scared of the same thing. So Little Nueng proposes a deal. She's like, okay, so we're both afraid of losing each other. So how about we try to fix this the best we can? And, like, how about we just face all the bullshit that comes at us together? And, like, together is how we're going to get through it, which is a major theme in the show also. Because when they try to fight these battles separately, it goes poorly. But when they do it together, they're a stronger front as a united partnership than they are individually. That's another thing that's reinforced through a lot of the drama in the show.
Because they make each other stronger.
They're an incredible team, is what it is. And again, Little Nueng, emotional, mature, Little Nueng knows that. And to me, it's implied from the conversation earlier that Big Nueng had with Sam and Mon that if they get through these tough situations, they'll be a stronger couple as a result of it. Because Nueng went into that conversation going, like, you guys are the perfect couple. Like, did you ever deal with stuff? And then, like, in the conversation, it's revealed, like, yeah, we fight. But Mon said it. She's like, but when we get through the fight, we're stronger because we know each other better. We've just dealt with this thing together. That's what makes our relationship so strong, because of all the fighting we did and the battling they went through. So that was the other reason we got the Sam and Mon scene, so that Nueng is like, okay, I have an example of a couple getting through hardships, and they are a very strong couple. So, like, okay, she's more receptive to this thing Little Nueng is proposing. Like, no matter what happens, let's face it together. And I do love that when Little Nueng is saying all of this to Big Nueng, she keeps doing grounding gestures in the car scene, where she initiates physical contact with Big Nueng every time she senses that she's upset or scared. Like, Little Nueng, like, grabs her shoulder, pokes her arm. Like, she's trying to do things to, like, ground her. And I think she knows that Big Nueng needs physical contact when she's upset. Like, let us all recall the song scene where Little Nueng held Big Nung's hand, like, against her face. She, like, put her hand on top of Big Nung's hand, wiped her tears, held her, all those things. I think she knows that about Big Nung. And considering Big Nung is actively driving a car right now, Little Nung is limited in what she can do, but she does what she can, and it does affect Big Nung. When Little Nung grabs her shoulder, Big Nung visibly starts relaxing at that touch. So, like, it works. Like, again, showing you right here and here that they are stronger together. Because what was Big Nung doing without Little Nung? Spiraling. And then Little Nung comes over, reassures her, grounds her with physical gestures, and Big Nung stops spiraling. Like, she stops. And by the end of the conversation, Little Nung's like, can you stop thinking about this right now? Like, you're just driving yourself crazy thinking about all these what ifs. Like, we'll face it together when it comes at us, okay? Freaking about it now is not going to solve anything. It's just going to make you upset. So stop thinking about it. And Big Nung says, okay. And, like, pats Little Nung's hands and then relaxes, like, fully relaxes after that. And again, the other indicator is that when she says, I won't think about this anymore, she does it in the cute voice. So she's back to, like, being relaxed Big Nung, which is adorable. And I love this scene because it's a very, like, important, beautiful bonding moment between them. Because they just communicate so well. It's just, I can't with them.
I mean, yeah. We've just talked about it so much, but it's just, you can't stop talking about how well they communicate and how healthy it is.
Yes, their relationship is so healthy, it's stupid. I just love it so much. Okay, and something else that happens at the end of this scene that I, like, noticed maybe for the first time, I can't remember when I was watching it. So after this gets resolved, then Big Nung's like, are you tired? And Little Nung's like, I'm so tired. Like, can we go nap at your house? Or whatever. And, like, I mean, she doesn't say that, but I think that's implied. And Big Nung looks back at the road and starts smiling, like, full smiling. Like, she's really happy because, again, the big thing that she was worried about got resolved in a beautiful way. And then they do this thing in editing where they, like, it's slow-mo. Okay, the way she's driving and looking at Little Nung, and it's slow-mo. And I was like, why is this slow? Like, this isn't Gap. They don't just do weird editing choices in this show. They like, actually use their editing and camera techniques fairly purposefully in this show, I'm pretty confident in saying. So I was like, why is there a slow-mo moment right now? And I noticed in the show there's a couple of them with, it's always Big Nung, because, I mean, she's the protagonist. So it's always Big Nung. But to me, I think they do these slow-mo things with Big Nung when they have Big Nung, Little Nung, like, pivotal, probably core memory focused moments that impact Big Nung the most. So this was a huge moment where Little Nung was basically like, I'm never going to get tired of you. We're going to get through this together. And Big Nung comes out of her darkness because Little Nung is there, because they are together and stronger together. And she's happy at the end of it. Like, and they're fine. Like, they got through their fight, like Mon said. Like, it wasn't even a fight. They got through the situation, and they're stronger now because of it. And so, like, it's proof to Big Nung that, like, you know, they can make it. And I think that was a big moment for her to have that kind of moment to be like, we are going to be okay. And so, like, I think that's why we get this slow-mo thing that's like, this is a moment that, like, impact Big Nung forever. I think that's why we keep getting those. It's spaced throughout the show, mostly in season 2, I think. But, like, I think those are big, pivotal Big Nung moments for, like, this relationship.
It's probably her wanting to, like, slow it down and make sure that she remembers it. Like you said, for it to be a core memory.
Yeah. All right. So after the core memory is formed, the Nungs arrive back at Little Nung's grandmother's house and park in the driveway.
You know, she has to, what is the word? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Kiss Big Nung. I'm surprised she didn't. Because Little Nung was like, I'm going to finish kissing you in the car from now on.
Yeah, no, like, that's what I'm trying to call back to. She has to follow her promise.
Yeah.
And make sure she finished kissing her in the car.
Right. So I'm surprised we didn't get that. So instead, they have a chat in the driveway. And I think that, like, basically, Little Nung asks, do you think it's possible we can just tell everyone we're together? Because, and I think Little Nung is not saying this because she's like, like impatient. Like usually she's just like, I just want to be out now with you. I just want to sing dress in public. Like, I don't think that's where this is coming from, this question. I think the reason she's asking this is because of Big Nung's freak out earlier, right? Like where she was afraid of losing Little Nung. And I think that Big Nung was like, Big Nung was afraid of losing her. So I think when they arrive, she's basically asking like, can we just tell everyone we're together? Because that would avoid all of these problems you're worried about. Right? Like meaning that like, hey, this thing with Chet, the fake news wouldn't be a thing if we were public with our relationship. Like you'd be less stressed out if we just did it. Rip the Band-Aid off. That's kind of what Little Nung's asking in this conversation.
Yeah, but there'd be so many more issues, which Big Nung is thinking about. But Little Nung's like, no, we'd have no issues because everyone would just know. We don't have to hide.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny because, I mean, we do get another Can I Move In? But it's like she's replaced Can I Move In with you with, can I just shout our relationship from the rooftop? Like, is it time yet? Now?
Yeah. I mean, again, but like, she was doing that before because she's impatient. And that's not why she's asking it now. She's asking it because she's worried that she doesn't want Big Nung to be upset. And she's like, maybe we can avoid you being upset if we just told everybody. Like, would that fix things? Because, like, again, they both want to fix things for the other person. So Little Nung is like, would this fix things? And then Big Nung answers with the other fear that she didn't express earlier, which is like, your family. It would ruin your family, she says. And Little Nung looks really confused because I don't think she ever thought about how her family would process this. Because I think she never thought really beyond having Big Nung to herself, beyond being happy, beyond Big Nung being happy. But like Big Nung has been worried about the family stuff the whole time because she grew up in this environment and understands Little Nung's family. Also, like, she's had the sidebars with Chet being a homophobic asshole. And so even though it's just she's worried, she's like, I feel we're going to get a really, we just got a bad reaction from Auntie Nim this morning. She's not even related to me. And like, your family's going to be worse. So like, I'm worried about how that's going to affect you. You, the woman with no support system in your family. So Big Nung's like, okay, let me put this in a way that you're going to understand because clearly you haven't really thought about this. I try to bring it up, but you evade this. How about this? Remember when we were fighting and we brought Sam to come meet Yui, and Yui and your dad were having the whole thing. Remember your dad's reaction to like you fake dating Yui or whatever, and he freaked the fuck out? Remember that? And honestly, this was a bad example. I understand why Big Nung brought it up because it's something that happened. But like, Little Nung literally gives zero fucks about Chet's opinion. Because she's like, I'm not worried about him. He didn't raise me. Like, I owe him nothing. Which is valid. Chet is literally nothing to her.
Completely. Like, blood means nothing if they weren't around. And he, like, not only was he not around, he chose to not be around. Like, he knew about her. I mean, then we get the thing of where he doesn't actually. He's like, is she my daughter? But he's just, he's so stupid. Anyway, like. Yeah.
Literally, he chose not to be in her life. He actively chose that. Pingfa did not actively choose this. Pingfa was banished and robbed of the relationship. Chet walked away to save himself from his father's wrath. He saved himself from the scandal he caused. And now he's suddenly like, I want dominion over my daughter. And it's like, bitch, go fuck yourself. Like, I really hate Chet. I really hate him. He's despicable in my mind.
He's terrible.
He's terrible. And now he's trying to, like, court Big Nung, even though she clearly doesn't want that. He's just the worst.
But he only thinks about himself.
Literally. Only thing. And does not listen to other people. He's terrible. So, but anyway, like, but Big Nung is like, listen, I understand when relatives are terrible, but they're still your relatives. And, like, okay. So she cuts off Little Nung. She's like, Little Nung, don't say things like that. Like, I understand what you're saying, but, like, don't. Like, he's still your dad. Like, and like, maybe you, and like, okay, this is coming from a woman who, like, lost her parents. Big Nung's an orphan. So I think part of this is like, yeah, Chet's not ideal, but he's still, like, a father, and, like, he exists and he's not dead. So, like, and you don't seem to try to have a relationship with him, but you could have a relationship with your actual father. Like, and maybe you don't want it now, but maybe one day you'll want that. And, like, burning the bridge now, you'll never have it. So, like, I think Big Nung wants her to have the option, you know? Because Big Nung's option was robbed from her when her parents died. So I think maybe this is coming from her trauma a little bit.
It's always trauma.
Because she's orphaned. Yeah. So, bottom line, Big Nung is like, listen, Chet is still like, he's part of your family at the end of the day, you know? And like, they do have to take into account the fact that he is a raging homophobe, seriously, if they're planning on telling her family one day. Like, so Big Nung's like, okay, I understand why Chet was a bad example, because he is a bad example. So how about I give you one you'll definitely understand? She's like, what about your grandmother? The person that did raise you? And Little Nung gets real quiet when she thinks about this, because how would she react? Or the grandmother that used to react poorly over bad grades. How's she going to react? The grandmother who almost assaulted Nung the first time Nung dropped her off. Like,
oh my god, this grandmother, all over the place, man.
Right. How's she going to respond to this? Okay. Probably not well, because she doesn't let Little Nung have friends. Like, and, you know, she's still traumatized by Pingfa. So, but before Little Nung's thoughts can spiral out of control, because you can see the wheels turning and it's not good, and Big Nung leans across the console and takes Little Nung's hand, a grounding gesture for Little Nung, and then says, I totally understand you. Because she does. She's like, I'm the one person on earth who actually understands your relationship with your grandmother, and I understand how you feel. So she says, you love your grandmother, right? And again, this is Big Nung speaking from personal experience, and Little Nung considers this and then says yes. And so Big Nung's like, okay, like, you love your grandmother, and this is a big deal, our relationship. So, like, I know you don't want to think about how other people are going to react to us, but, like, there are people in our lives that love us, and we do need to think about, like, how this relationship is going to affect other people. Because, like, I mean, that's the lesson Big Nung learned the hard way with leaving the palace and Song and all that stuff. Because, like, at this point in their relationship, they're in the process of dealing with Big Nung's family and, like, coming out to her family. Sam doesn't care, because Sam already dealt with this. Sam's like, great, my sister's happy. But then, like, Auntie Nim and the palace staff, like, that's kind of like Big Nung's surrogate family. And, like, that's already not going well, right? So, like, they're kind of coming out to one side of the family. She's like, your side of the family is a whole other story. You're directly blood related to them. You're still, like a child in their eyes sometimes. Like, you're not fully independent. Like, this is a different scenario. And, like, you don't have a Sam. Like, Nung's like, I could say fuck my family, and I still have Sam. Like, at the end of the day, like, if Little Nung says fuck my family, she has no family. Like, that's it. Like, she's an only child with no support system. So Big Nung knows that Little Nung's family situation is a lot higher stakes, and then her family members are going to be more challenging to deal with because, like, the homophobia is already there. So, okay, so that gives Little Nung something to think about, and, like, Little Nung for once thinks about it versus just dismissing, quote, what other people think. So she thinks about it, and then she goes inside the house. So after allegedly off-screen, quote, finishes kissing Big Nung, then goes inside. And inside, her grandmother's cooking in the kitchen. And she's like, oh, hi, Little Nung. It's a shame Big Nung didn't join you for dinner. And I bet my 2 nickels that I have that Little Nung tried to persuade Big Nung to come inside. And Big Nung's like, your grandmother scares me, first of all. And also, I have gallery things to do, so no.
Oh, yeah. She definitely spent the whole time kissing her. Be like, just come in.
Come inside.
Give me another kiss. Are you sure? Another kiss. You know you want to.
Positive.
She's like, no, I definitely don't want to.
I definitely don't want to. And grandmother's terrifying. So, all right. So, regardless, Big Nung is too busy running her gallery to, like, deal with this right now. I think this is probably what happened. So, Little Nung and grandmother are having a chat, and the grandmother pivots immediately from Big Nung into, I heard you're dating a lesbian. Like no buff, like, just immediately being like, so you're dating that tomboy, right?
I thought it was more of just, like, you're friends with. Because, like, you're hanging out with them.
No, because Chet talked to her. Anyway, I think it's implied that stuff is happening. And, like, I think Little Nung freaks out when she hears this, because I think her brain jumps to Big Nung. And she's like, oh, shit, you know I'm seeing Big Nung. Like, seeing somebody is different than, like, hanging out with, or, like, I think it implies more than just friendship. So I think she's like, oh shit, you know about me and Big Nung. And so Little Nung tries to play it cool, and she's like, what do you mean? Who do you mean? And the grandmother responds, your misfit father told me about Yui. And Little Nung looks, her face journey. She's like, thanks, lesbian Jesus. She doesn't know about the actual lesbian I'm dating. I think her brain went to Big Nung in this conversation. I was like, oh, thank God. And then she's like, yeah, Yui's a good person, you know? And the grandmother turns immediately into homophobia street by saying, so what? She's still a lesbian. You shouldn't be hanging out with her or seeing her or doing anything. Indicating that in the grandmother's brain, sexuality trumps morality and everything else. So, like, Yui's a bad person because Yui's queer. And Little Nung's like, no, Yui's a good person. Like, and the grandmother's like, how could she be? She's a sexual deviant. And it's like, oh, the homophobia is on full display.
Yes, and like this is such a big thing that does happen, and it makes no sense because you could be best friends with someone, and then all of a sudden someone just thinks less of you because of your sexuality. It doesn't make, like, it doesn't change who you are. I don't understand it. I don't understand why this is a thing.
Homophobia, the hell of a drug. Anyway, again, but from Little Nung's grandmother's point of view, remember, she's the one who's traumatized by Pingfa's social scandal when she was young. So she's like, the scandal this will bring, I think, is where her brain is at. You associating yourself with a queer person. So she tells Little Nung, I don't want you to be close to that kind of person. Because, again, it's the association, the scandal. And Little Nung's face falls because this is the only family member she truly loves. Like, twisted relationship. That's the whole theme with these grandmothers. But she does love her grandmother, like Nung did. So, like, this must be so heartbreaking to find out that, like, she's also homophobic, like Chet. Like, she's learning that right now about the person who raised her, the person who allegedly loves her. Like, she's like, wow, you too?
Yeah, it's easy to be like, oh, my grandmother will accept when you don't actually know. But this was a great opportunity for Little Nung to feel out more stuff about what's going on. It's a great opportunity for, like, because if she were to come in, just be like, hey, so how do you feel about lesbians? That would be like, right.
You ever see the L Word, grandmother?
It's like, hey, Grandma, I have a show I want to show you. I think that you might like it. Can you imagine the grandmother watching?
No, not at all. Yeah, so Little Nung gets an idea. She's like, why don't I just test the waters a bit more now that we're on this topic, so I don't have to, I can't, because again, like, awkwardly bringing up lesbians to ask the question would be weird. So she's like, you brought it up, so, like, how about I find out what I really want to know? So she asks, well, what if I was to publicly date Yui? What if I did that? And, like, why is she asking this? Because to me, there's a difference between your loved one doing something bad, like the theoretical concept of Little Nung, quote, seeing Yui, and then there's actually doing it. And the reaction you get from the other person is different, whether it's hypothetical versus a real thing, right? So I think she wants to know how her relationship with Big Nung would be received. Like, would the grandmother accept them if it was actually a thing? And the grandmother answers with homophobia. And she says, like, basically what the grandmam said to Sam, you're a girl. How could you love another girl? That's unnatural. And Little One gets real quiet while she's processing this heartbreaking news that her grandmother possibly would never accept her. And she gets really uneasy and asks, like, and the grandmother asks her, like, wait, are you already dating this person? And Little One's like, no, I am definitely not dating Yui. I was just asking. And then the grandmother's like, don't even ask me that, because don't make me sad even thinking about that, because I'm still traumatized about your mother. She then puts Little Nung, okay? She equates the shame of Pingfa and Chet's teenage pregnancy to Little Nung, an adult, possibly dating a woman, okay? I don't like this comparison at all. But I like it better than the comparison in Gap when they were trying to equate Sam and Mon to Chin cheating on his wife.
That was so bad.
They're like, it's forbidden love. It's like, no, those are not the same thing. Those are not the same thing.
But my brain went to, I don't know why. I like to put the Pingfa and Chet thing out of my mind, apparently. I thought the grandmother was talking about Pingfa having a crush on Big Nung, and I forgot that she doesn't know about that.
She didn't even know who Big Nung was.
It makes sense that she doesn't know. So I was about to comment asking if this was like the first time that little Nung heard about her mom. I just want little Nung to like know about this backstory.
I know. I would love it. But no, this is basically the grandmother saying like, don't shame me, because like why did little Nung have such a traumatic childhood? Because she's paying for the crimes of Pingfa's like teenage pregnancy her whole life. So here she is still in the shadow of that bullshit, where the grandmother's basically saying, you can't, now that you're out in university and making friends, the thing I forbade you from doing in high school, you better be making the right friends, and you're not going to date the wrong people. So like the grandmother's still like exerting control over little Nung now and equating it to her mother and saying, don't shame me by dating the wrong person. Basically, she's like, I can't handle that. I'm too old for this shit, basically.
Her heart can't take it.
Yeah, right. We don't know her heart condition, but yeah, exactly. But to me, this comparison must be so heartbreaking for little Nung, because she knows how broken up her grandmother is about her what her mom did. So like to be equated to Pingfa is like the ultimate shame. Like I feel so bad for little Nung. She gets so much heartbreaking news in this conversation with the grandmother.
It was a lot for her to take in right now.
Right.
Like, her world is crashing at this point.
Right. And this is again, why did she bring up the what if I date Yui? Because she wanted to like be like, okay, well, if I was theoretically just hanging out and seeing them, and now what if I'm actually dating them? Like, what's your reaction? Because what's Big Nung been doing with Little Nung this whole time? She's like, what if other people find out and react badly? And Little Nung's like, whatever, fuck them. It's one thing to theoretically be like, if other people don't accept us, I don't care. It's a whole other thing to be in the scenario with somebody you care about who's actively telling you, I will not accept you. Like, this is an actual reality check for Little Nung to be like, oh, this is what Big Nung's been talking about the whole time. Yeah, this isn't great. Like, I don't feel good about this. And then so the grandmother's like, how about this? Promise me you're not going to date anybody at all and just focus on school. No relationships right now. Understand? Got it? And Little Nung hesitates, almost like she wants to tell her about Big Nung. But then in the end, her trauma response for self-preservation kicks in, and she lies out of fear and says, I promise I won't date anybody. Even though she's in the middle of a relationship right now.
I know that this is like a very serious situation right now, but we have to point out that she didn't pinky promise, so it's basically like having your fingers crossed behind her back while saying I promise. Yeah.
Basically. But like, what's happening? Little Nung's being treated like a child in this scene. And what's her childhood response to this? Lying to her grandmother to protect herself. And so it's sad that like she came into this conversation to be like, will you accept me? And the grandmother basically said, no, I will not accept you for who you are. I will not accept this relationship with Big Nung, no matter how happy and healthy it is, because queerness automatically makes you immoral and a terrible person. And so like for her grandmother to like shit all over her relationship basically that she knows nothing about, just on that premise alone, is a lot to like take in. And like then to be equated to Pingfa as like a horrible person for even theoretically bringing this up, like, and then to make her to promise no dating right now, like she's being treated like a child. So like she's like, I guess I can't be honest with you at all, like I have to go back to lying to you. And so then for the rest of the scene, Little Nung just tiptoes around the kitchen while she helps her grandmother cook, and like is just looking at her grandmother like she's absolutely heartbroken, because like this is exactly what Big Nung was trying to warn her about. She's like, I'm trying to protect you because like your family's not gonna be able to handle this. And like here it is.
Yeah, something else to note about like season 2, the grandmother hasn't been around as much because of Little Nung staying with Big Nung more because of school. So like I don't know fully where I'm going with this, but I'm going to try my best. So with little Nung coming back home, it's like stepping foot into this place. She's a child.
The other thing is, like, when Little Nung comes, Little Nung's like a stranger, a little bit more of a stranger now than she was before because they're spending less time together too. So it's like Little Nung has been, like we've commented, she's growing. She's growing into her adulthood. She's growing into an individual with autonomy. And the grandmother's giving her more of that by, like, letting her stay out, even though she's, like, being watched by Big Nung or whatever. So, like, technically she's, like, quote, with an adult, so she's not alone. But, like, she's coming into her own and making friends. And, like, she's still being treated like a child every step of the way, where they're like, that's your friend? You can't be friends with this person. Like, and it's like, and here she is, like, getting used to having all this independence and making her own decisions. She's used to being around Big Nung, who, like, listens to her, respects her, and, like, communicates with her, versus, like, being like, no, you're going to do this because I said so. And it's like, to have to go back to that is also, like, annoying. To be like, I'm an adult, you know what I mean? Little Nung doesn't talk back because, like, culturally that doesn't make sense. But, like, that's got to be really frustrating to be like, you're trying to put me back in a box, and, like, I don't want to be in the box. And you, of all people, the person that I, like, love the most in my family, like, I just feel bad. This is very devastating for Little Nung to, like, have to learn this about her grandmother. Anyway. All right, so later that night, Big Nung is doing some art before she goes to bed when Little Nung gives her a call. And Big Nung immediately turns on the charm. She's like, you calling because you miss me? Like, damn, obviously. And Little Nung's like, why must you tease me when we are apart like this? That's just unfair, you big meanie.
It's really cute that Big Nung is now the one teasing, because we've had so many phone calls and voice messages of Little Nung being the one being a little brat. But now it's Big Nung.
It's Big Nung overtly flirting, which is a welcomed reprieve for everyone, not just Little Nung. So Big Nung continues very smoothly. Big Nung very smoothly continues the flirting by saying, well, when we're apart, that's when we should be the most honest about how we feel. It's when we should be saying these things, which is true. Like, that's a valid point. But Big Nung picks up pretty quickly that Little Nung is upset because she had a conversation with her grandmother. She's like, you talked to your grandmother, didn't you? Who could have seen that coming? Instead of being like, I told you so, she's like, why don't you just tell me about it? Because
I love that she figured out that that's what it was.
Of course.
She's like, oh, she was asking me about it beforehand. Something definitely went down when she went inside.
Also, like, she went in the house. It's just her and the grandmother. What could have possibly changed in, like, the hour that they've been apart or whatever? So Little Nung basically explains that her grandmother is even more homophobic about Yui than Chet was, and forbade them from even being friends, which Chet didn't even go that far, right? So she's like, wow, she flipped the fuck out. I truly didn't see that coming. Like, ow. And Big Nung just, like, patiently listens the whole time Little Nung's telling her what's going on. And then Little Nung ends this with, like, she's upset. She's like, can I just move in with you now and just escape this? Like, can we run away from our problems is what she's asking. Because that's her solution. Like, Big Nung is always running away from problems. The Little Nung is also always running away from problems. And Big Nung says, like, no, this is the thing we unfortunately can't run away from. I tried that. It didn't work out. Like, trust me, you can't run from this. So she's like, let me put it to you this way. Like, would you rather that we're together and, like, it's just us on our own and everybody hates us? Or would you rather we're together and, like, our family accept this? Like, what would be better? And Little Nung's like, well, obviously the second one is better. Like, the first one is not ideal, but, like, it's hard. And also, like, she's young and she's impatient, and we've seen her do that over and over again, where she's very young and impatient. That's part of being young. And I think that her fear, like Little Nung's fear in this conversation and with this whole scenario, is that, like, they'll never get acceptance and then be in the closet forever, which, like, could be a possibility, you know? Like, if Big Nung is hell-bent on, like, wearing down the family, Little Nung's like, what if that never happens? Then what? Like, then we're in the closet? I don't want to be in the closet. It's 2024 or whatever time it is. Who knows what time it is in the show, you know?
No, I don't. No, I agree. But I don't know how she expects to really wear them down, because usually people are pretty set in that mindset if they're homophobic. So
I think Big Nung's just trying to do everything she can to preserve Little Nung's relationship with her family. And so, like, doing this slowly and warming people up to it, or, like, I don't know. She's just doing her best, man. I don't know what to tell you. So, Little Nung's like, are we ever going to get there? Because, like, when is this going to happen? And, like, I get that. When you're young, you're just like, I'm tired of waiting for things to happen. I just want them to happen. Like, I'm tired. I just entered adulthood. Shouldn't I have my life figured out by now? What the hell? And it's like, bitch, you got, like, a whole ass another decade or so before your life gets figured out. Like, slow your roll. Like, just enjoy being young. And I love Big Nung's response because it mirrors the conversation in the car when she was freaking out and Little Nung reassured her, like, hey, we're in this together. Like, we're going to face the obstacles together. And, like, that calmed Big Nung down. So now in this conversation, the roles are reversed. Little Nung is the one freaking out about the outside forces on their coming down on their relationship. And Big Nung assures Little Nung, like, that day will come. Like, it'll happen. It's just, like, it's going to take time because we are dealing with people who are set in their ways, who are going to judge us. And Big Nung, I think, in the back of her mind is like, well, once Little Nung is out of school, that's the other problem. Once she's out of school, what the fuck are they going to say? She's an independent adult. She can do whatever she wants. Like, and if they don't accept her then, like, they're never going to accept her. But, like, now she's still seen as, like, not an independent adult, right? They still feel like they have domain over her. Because, like, she's still technically living at home with the grandmother. Like, she isn't fully independent right now. So I think Big Nung's like, once she gets out of school, this will be different.
That is Big Nung's timeline.
Right. I think that's actually her timeline. Because she's like, then they can't judge us. If you're working, we're together. What are they going to do? Nothing. I can marry you. Like, I think, like, that will change everything once she's out of school. I think because she's in school, that definitely complicates a lot of the stigma of the relationship, right? But, and again, like, to validate that argument, the cherry on top of this conversation for me is when Big Nung is like, she asked Little Nung, we're not in a hurry with this relationship, are we? Because Big Nung's thinking long game. And I love the smile from Little Nung because, again, they never directly talk about their relationship. They never talk about what is this. They never talk about where is this going. They just have conversations where, like, you can see their headspaces. And so Little Nung starts smiling because her girlfriend has very clearly just admitted she thinks about being with her in, like, long term in the future, right? And in this conversation admits she wants to fight for the relationship no matter how long it takes. So, like, that's huge from Big Nung being like, what? Girlfriend? No, get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, all the denial. This is like an admittance from Big Nung that, like, no, I take this relationship seriously. I'm thinking about it in the long term. I'm not in a hurry for any of this. Like, we're in this for the long haul, right? And that's what Little Nung gets out of this conversation. She's like, oh my God. Okay, whatever. Fuck my homophobic family, I guess. I'll agree to this plan as long as I can wait with you, right? Because that means we're together if we're waiting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, at the very least, at least the school is near the palace. Because that gives them
an
excuse for most of the time.
I think Big Nung would still show up and see her. And, like, anyway, yeah.
She would figure out. She would figure out excuses to go see her so she didn't have to lie.
I just mean that, like, even if they weren't in this situationship where, like, Little Nung's sleeping at the palace, Big Nung would still make excuses to go to that school. Because, like, again, she did it with folks. She could have texted him. She went right to the school to see him. I think she would do that shit for Little Nung. Be like, oh, hey, I just happened to be in the neighborhood. Isn't it your lunch break? Because she knows her schedule. She has it memorized. She'd be like, isn't it your lunch break right now? She would 100% do that shit where she would just, like, randomly show up because she's in the area. And Little Nung's like, okay, whatever. Sure. Just admit you wanted to see me. Anyway, because they're kind of codependent a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's take a moment and talk about Little Nung's room in season 2. So we get, like, a different angle of the room. I assume it's a completely different set because we have different sets in season 2. But let's talk about what her desk looks like because we haven't fully seen it from this angle before. So first of all, the blank book is the backdrop on the desktop. Great product placement, everyone. Good job. She also has a fancy keyboard that lights up, which explains why she wanted the light up microphone, because they would totally match. So I think she was like, hey, let's match this equipment. It wasn't about the capacity of like the waveforms or anything about that microphone. She was just like, it would match my light up keyboard. And I respect
it
that.
Doesn't matter how it sounds. It lights up. I like it. And that is how a lot of consumers buy things.
Right. She's like, colors of rainbow for my queer podcast? Yes. So I respect that. Also, I love the details of they have like basically like podcast decor in the background where they have like the you're on air and they have like the kind of like equipment. So like, again, establishing that this is where she records.
Oh, yeah, got it.
So overall, in summary, just based on this angle, Little Nueng seems like a really cool person, and I want to be friends with her, like, for real.
No, she really does.
Right.
I would love to have her come over here on this podcast.
I agree. That'd be the dream. Okay. Then we go back to the conversation between the Nuengs. So then we get the classic, I miss you, no, I miss you, I love you, no, I love you exchange for the two of them, which is so sweet that it rivals Mon and Sam. And now we need limes. And basically, like, this conversation just devolves into cuteness, because then Little Nueng's like, the more you say shit like this, the more I miss you. And freaking Big Nueng, lovesick Big Nueng, pulls out a portrait that she did. And she's like, well, I'm looking at your portrait right now. Does that mean I miss you? And it's like, yes, it means you have it really bad. Nueng. That's what that means. Yes, girl.
If you're just randomly looking at a portrait, there's a reason.
Again, you could have been looking at stuff on the phone, but she's technologically challenged. It's fine. We'll take this. My question. At this, because we didn't see her do this portrait. It's already done. No glasses, so assume it's recent. At this point, how many portraits of Little Nueng has she actually drawn? Like, there have to be at least dozens scattered around this palace at this stage. I feel like
it's one for every day, but they're not like full portraits every day. It's like sometimes just like a little doodle on the side of a piece of paper, but she's always drawing Little Nueng.
Listeners at home, how many at this stage portraits are completed by by Big Nueng of Little Nueng? Leave it in the comments. I say at least a dozen that are scattered around the palace. That she probably has one in every room where she's like, I miss her, and there's a portrait. Because she's that person. They're codependent. Mm-hmm. Instead of being like looking at, because they don't take selfies on their phones. I think she's just like, why would I do that? I could draw you from memory. Because she old school.
And Little Nueng finds that romantic, so
yeah, exactly. So it works. It's just she's constantly on Big Nueng's brain, and she's just, if you're sitting down to draw, she's like, this is what's in my brain again. Anyway, you know how some like artists, like you're just like, they're like, they only draw like ballet dancers, or some only draw like fruit bowls or like flowers. This is the only thing she draws. This is like their specialty is Big Nueng, is drawing Little Nueng. I'm not mad at it. I'm just pointing it out.
In a few years, there's going to be a part of the gallery where it's just like Little Nueng in various places.
And then Little Nueng gets her wish. She's like, you know what would make the gallery better if my face was in it? There's a whole wall of by Big Nueng like of just Little
Nueng.
An
anniversary or birthday gift one year, and it's just he was like, I did what you wanted.
That would be really cute. I'm here for that. And then Juan Viva comes in and she's like, I'd like to buy one. And Little Nueng's like, absolutely not. Not from you. They're not for sale. Get out of my wife's establishment.
I kind of want to see.
She's like, I'm a partner. And I was like, I don't care. Get out. Anyway, because like Juan Viva would 100% be like a business partner investing, because she's like trying to make her money more money. So she's one of those people now that she's got money. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Okay, then we cut over to the next scene, which is basically a line because of how unsweet it is. So, off screen, Chet invited Big Nueng out to dinner. Why would Big Nueng ever accept this? I don't think this time it's because of the free food, because she's loaded. So she can buy her own food and doesn't need to have Chet. I think she accepts this because she's trying to stay in the good graces of her girlfriend's father, who's suspicious of suitors. And at this stage, I think it's pretty clear that Big Nueng thinks of Little Nueng as her forever person. So she's like, she needs to be able to one day tell Chet they're dating. And so she's trying to stay on his good side. I think that's what she's doing here.
Also, by
So,
meeting him, she's able to, like, start slowly wearing him down with, like, little things that she could say. Also, she can make sure that this dude's not going to do anything really stupid. He's not going to listen to her, but
no.
and he's still going to do something stupid, but she would have the warning that it's coming.
Yeah. There's that. All of that, yes. I think that's in her brain. She's here for Little Nung, is bottom line, because of the rest of this conversation is really why she's here. All right, so here we are, unfortunately, with Chet. So Chet, on the other hand, is here because he is using his daughter as an excuse to be seen out in public on a date with Big Nung to keep them tabloid rumors going. So that's the difference between these two people. Like, they're both kind of here for like, Big Nung has good intentions to be here. They're kind of selfish, but they're good intention, whereas Chet is just using Big Nung to get some tabloid rumors going. So what a stand-up man he is.
When she said, "You're not inviting me out just for the tabloids, are you?" His face made me... I mean, his face always makes me want to punch it, but that face... just... someone slap him.
Yeah, I have that in there. We'll get there, but yes.
Sorry.
That's okay. But, like, this is why I'm establishing the scene. This is why we're all here. Okay, so Chet invites the Little Nung Whisperer out because he wants her advice. And he's like, I want to buy my daughter a car. And Big Nung looks at him like he's an idiot, because he is, and says, your daughter can't drive. And she doesn't say this, but she's like, also, like, she has me. I'm her driver. And if you give her a car, I have less time with her. So she's like, well, the palace is close to her school. It's fine. I can pick her up. Like the arrangement we have right now is working. Why are you trying to make it worse, Chet? And he's like, that's great. And I appreciate you chauffeuring my daughter around and I never thought that was suspicious that you're doing this. But, thanks for doing that, Big Nung. But, like, I want to be able to give her independence. And also, like, I want to teach her how to drive because that's a way we can do father-daughter bonding. And, like, honestly, that on the surface is not a bad idea. Like, my dad taught me how to drive. Like, it's not a bad, like, we have nothing in common. Maybe we could bond over this thing that would give her independence and things like that. Like, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, because he could have offered to just, like, have someone teach her how to drive.
Yeah, or just been like, she has Big Nung, but yeah, let me save some money. Yeah, no, exactly. That would be throwing more money at it. But, like, he's like, it could be a way for us to bond. Not a bad idea. But, so Big Nung picks up on the fact that Chet is trying his best, which is that, to come up with ways to please Little Nung, his daughter, which is a good thing, okay? That's a good thing. It's better than him trying to just control her. Because a car is equal freedom, right? But as always, Chet is missing the bigger picture and the whole point of, like, how to bond with his daughter. And so Big Nung asks, have you asked her if she wants a car? Like, have you talked to your daughter, Chet? You're making a lot, like, on the surface, this plan sounds good. If Little Nung expressed a need for a vehicle, which she's never had, she has Big Nung and Big Nung's car and Big Nung's gas money. Why the hell would she need a car? Like, she's doing just fine. So, like, good idea. But she's like, does your daughter ever want this master plan you're coming up with? Does she want to partake in any of this? Have you talked to her? So instead of listening to what Big Nung is saying to him, all Chet gets from this conversation is, so she doesn't want a car? Like, and Big Nung rolls her eyes so hard because this man is more exhausting than Little Nung was at the beginning of their relationship, when she would constantly wear Big Nung down. Like, this man is way more exhausting than that. And so she's like, I'm going to spell this out for you because clearly you're not the brightest. She's like, okay. What I mean is, instead of asking the Little Nung Whisperer, why don't you ask Little Nung directly what she wants? Because you're, again, assuming shit. And that Chet's like, oh, yeah, I could ask her, but then it wouldn't be a surprise. Again,
you can't. It's a major thing, though. If maybe she knew how to drive already and like had an old car, yes, surprise away. But this is like a big thing. Like, what if your daughter is terrified to drive? What if, like, there's so much more going on.
How do you know what car she wants if you've never had a conversation with her?
One with
That's a big purchase. Not, I mean, he's loaded, so he probably doesn't care, but like, come on now. Again, but like, he keeps missing the point from Big Nung of like, just fucking talk to her. That's what she wants. So he's like, well, then it won't be a surprise. And Big Nung looks him dead in the eye and says, maybe your daughter doesn't want any more surprises. Because finding out you were her father was a surprise, and she didn't like that. I think she's tired of all you guys springing weird surprises on her she never asked for. Because all Little Nung wants is understanding, which is the thing that Big Nung understood immediately when they first met. And that is besides Big Nung being extremely attractive, the other reason that Little Nung stuck around so much was because Big Nung listened to her, respected her, and just understood her as a person. And like nobody else in her life ever does that. They just assume shit about her and try to like throw money at her or like win her affection in these weird ways that are impersonal because nobody talks to her to figure out who she is as a person. It's a running theme in this show.
Yeah, like no one. It's just amazing that the Nungs are so good at communicating when no one around them is good at talking.
They're all terrible. I'm surprised everybody didn't end up like Sam at the beginning of Gap, where Sam couldn't express herself to save her life because of all of her trauma. Like, and here's Big Nung, who's an incredible communicator, and like Little Nung, I guess the power of media, like you keep saying, like I don't know where she got it from because her parents are both idiots. They didn't raise her, and then the grandmother is awful and hella
She's
controlling.
Also closed off.
Right,
So.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense, but here we are. It's the ultimate miracle in the show. So anyway, Big Nung is trying her very best to plant the seed to Chet of get to know who your daughter really is. Like, actually get to know her. Be open-minded about what she tells you and stop trying to force her to be what you want her to be. Just, like, love her for who she is, like I do. And that's the way to win her affection. And I think, okay, so Big Nung's main motivation for coming here, because Chet only contacts her to talk about Little Nung most of the time. So she probably assumed he wants to talk about Little Nung. So, okay, let me go defend my girlfriend, because that's what she's always doing in these conversations with Chet. So I think really what she's trying to do is, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Remember the Auntie Nim situation? Like, Little Nung at the end of that conversation when, like, at the breakfast, when Nim ices her out, Nung leaves, and she's, like, plotting something. She's figuring out, okay, how can I be worthy of the surrogate parent here so that I'm accepted into the family? With Little Nung, it's more complicated because the family doesn't even accept Little Nung yet. So I think Big Nung is here to try and, at the very least, get them to accept who she is, which is her queerness, really, at the end of the day. Because if they can accept that she's queer, that's the first hurdle. And then be like, okay, cool. The other queer person she's dating is me. Now let's deal with that. Because, like, first they have to accept they have a queer daughter. Like, that's the first step. Like, they gotta accept your daughter's queer. Like, that's the first thing that has to happen. So she's trying to plant seeds here. She's like, get to know your daughter. Because that's, you know, that gets him in the right headspace for their relationships. And that's ultimately with the two of them both. That's what Little Nung wants more than anything. So she's like, she's trying to give Little Nung what she actually wants, which is not a car. It's to have a relationship like everybody else out in the open. So Chet kind of thinks about this. Kind of. I say kind of. He kind of thinks about this, and Big Nung's like, maybe get to know her at a personal level. And he's like, all right. He thinks about it. And then transitions into his performative date by giving Big Nung food. He's like, no, you gotta eat this. You know, like, he's feeding her first because he is trying to stage this as a date. And that's when Big Nung gets annoyed because she sees what he's doing. And she's like, she's here for Little Nung. She's not here for Chet's benefit. And Chet is like, you're here for both my benefits in all the ways. And she's like, okay, Chet, be real with me right now, you little bitch. This is the real reason you invited me out in public instead of coming to see me at my palace to have this conversation or calling me on the phone, because apparently we don't do that. are we here out in public so that you can spread rumors that we're together, right? That's why we're actually here in this kind of crowded restaurant in the window seat where people can see us. And he doesn't answer. He just shiftily starts drinking water and like his eyes are darting everywhere. And like, he's an opportunistic son of a bitch. Like, that's exactly what he did. He's trying to, you know, he's been trying to use her this entire time to like elevate himself because she's the ultimate trophy wife.
He's terrible.
He is terrible. I fucking hate him.
He's...
But big respect to Big Nung, because in this scene, let us not forget, in this scene, she sets a very clear boundary with Chet and tells him, do not cross any lines with me. She says it out loud in public in this restaurant. She's like, the only reason I'm allowing you to be in my life, because I ran away from you, remember? The only reason we're here is because of Little Nung. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't even be here. I would not talk to you ever again. Like, we have no business being in each other's lives anymore. It's just, we both love the same person in different ways. That's why we're here today. And Chet's like, yeah, sure, I understand that. Or so he says.
Okay. I don't believe anything that ever comes out of Chet's mouth because you know what? He never tries. And that's the main issue is he doesn't try to change at all. And he doesn't see that there's any error in the ways that he's thinking and doing. I mean, he's not thinking. We've already established that. And he just doesn't deserve anything because he's a terrible human and he needs to go away.
My biggest problem with him, I mean, I have a lot of problems with it. My biggest problem with him in all these conversations is that he doesn't listen to people when they're talking to him. Like, she had to so many times be like, you're not listening to what I'm actually saying. I'm going to dumb this down even more for you and be as explicit as possible because you're not listening to me. You're hearing what you want to hear because you already, he's one of those people that, like, he already made up his mind before he walked in there. He's like, I'm going to buy her a car. I'm going to teach her how to drive, and then we'll be best friends. He already made up his mind, and then he brings Nung in, and almost like under the guise of Nung's helping him, but he already made up his mind, because you watch him, he goes and does this stuff anyway. Like, regardless of this advice, where she's like, talk to your daughter, ask her if she even wants it, he still goes and does it. Like, he does it, he already made up his mind before he walked in here. That's the fucked up thing. So, like, he gets her out of, this literally was just a guise to get her out in public, and, like, keep courting her, but publicly to keep rumors going. Like, he's not listening to her at all in this conversation. And she went under there in good faith to be like, I'm here for little Nung, to help her with her fucked up crazy ass family that I don't want to marry into, but I'm gonna have to marry into now. And like, anyway, if she didn't love Little Nung, she would not be here.
She almost married into it. What, 4 years, 5 years, 6?
That's the grandmam's fault. Ago.
Yeah. And she's like, all right, well, if I have to go into this family, at least it's with Little Nung.
She's going to have Chet as a father-in-law. That sounds terrible.
Yeah,
that's even worse.
Oh, God.
I don't know if that's worse. Marrying him is probably worse. That's pretty bad.
But, like, having to be like, this is my father-in-law who I was going to marry one day.
Again, that's what makes this show wild. All right, so meanwhile, Little Nung is having a super chill day at school until Yui comes running over with the worst news ever. Surprise! You're famous. And Little Nung's first reaction is actual panic because fame is her worst nightmare. She's a major introvert and like Big Nung, it's one of the things they have in common. And she wants to be out of the spotlight. I think, again, that's why she wanted to do the voice DJing because it's not an in-person thing. It's not an on-camera thing. That's why she's doing a voice-only podcast because, I mean, this podcast started without a visual component. Now it has a visual component because, like, there's more anonymity to that. And that makes Little Nung feel comfortable. She doesn't like being in the spotlight. So she's like, why am I famous? Like, first of all, because, like, I'm pretty sure her brain probably went to Big Nung, like, oh, God, have we been outed?
Oh, no, definitely.
Yeah, that would make her real famous real fast.
They found out all the relationship shit.
That would be a giant scandal. Although, like, what they, you know, with the Thai rules with media and royals, what could they really say? But, like, the gossip mills outside of the papers would be a run-in with that story. So yeah, she'd be hella famous. So I think she's like, oh fuck, why am I famous? So Yui explains that, like, the podcast took off. And he's like, oh, people are really liking the podcast. People are in our DMs, basically, trying to figure out who's voicing this because they love your voice. And Little Nung's like, oh, okay, so I'm not actually famous. The podcast right now is famous. Good. That's what we all want. We want the podcast to do well. But Little Nung's like, why are all these people want to know me? Like, that's weird. Just, like, enjoy the show. And Yui's like, people probably admire you and this and that. And, like, why don't you want to be famous? That's weird. Doesn't everybody want to be famous? And Little Nung reiterates something we love about her, which is like, I don't like meeting people. Relatable, girl. I get it.
It's so valid.
It's so valid. It's so valid. That's overwhelming. And she gets exhausted by, like, social interaction. So, like, I get it. So, anyway, Yui's like, I guess from this conversation, part of the podcast, I guess, she's like, I think running the social media for the podcast. And outsourcing this to a friend, the social media aspect, that's a good move, Little Nung. So we tried doing that, and it partially worked for the podcast. So quick shout out to Cole, Zoe, and Elena, who have been helping us with our social medias. Thanks, guys. If anyone else out there would like to be our Yui and help with the podcast, hit us up on all our social medias, or email us, or shout out the Discord. We would love to talk to you, because this podcast is a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's too much.
It's too much some days. So if you'd like to help, let us know. We're always looking for helpers. All right.
I think there is someone else helping as well, because Yui makes a comment saying,
the admin, but I think they meant the admin of, like, the social media account. Because, like, Yui comments that, like, well, it's social media. People are going to figure out who you are eventually because, like, internet. But for now, I told the admin not to reveal who you were. So I wasn't sure if that meant, like, that, like...
Yeah, it was just a very weird, like, phrasing.
I think it's the translation. I'm not sure. I thought it meant, like, the social media, like, don't release our information, kind of, like, a privacy setting discussion. Because who else would they know? Folk? Like, who would the admin be? They don't have other friends that we've seen. Anyway. Yeah, hit us up if you want to help with the podcast. Anyway, so then we cut back to Big Nung and Chet. Unfortunately, they're still having dinner. And Chet is paying, because it's over now. So Chet is paying the check while Big Nung psychs herself up for, like, the reason she's here. So she's like, Chet, can I ask you something? And he gets way too eager about this. And he's like, you can ask me literally anything. Anything you want to know. No, whatever. And she's like, slow your roll, bitch. This isn't about you. It's literally never about you, Chet. Never. She's like, this is about Little Nung. Remember her, the reason we're here. She's like, between buying her the car, like throwing money at her, or accepting Little Nung's identity, like getting to know her, which are you going to choose? Because that was the choice she gave him at the beginning of the meal. Then they ate the meal. She's like, all right, back to the main point, Chet. What are you going to do? Are you going to accept who your daughter is, or are you just going to buy her a car? And Chet's like, well, both. Both is good. I can love my daughter and get her a car, Big Nung. I am capable of both, okay? It's a point in my favor. And Big Nung's like, oh, fuck's sake, Chet. You're still not getting this. Because she was very explicit, like, will you accept your daughter's identity? And he's like, I can still love her and get her a car. And she's like, that is not what I said.
It's
because he's not listening. He's not listening to what she's saying. And this conversation makes it so obvious, like, clear that this man does not listen when you talk to him. Even her, like Big Nung, who's like a trusted confidant in this situation. And she's like, okay, listen, I'm just going to tell you what to do instead of giving you the illusion that you had a choice to begin with. And she's like, listen, you have to accept your daughter for who she really is. You have to. A car is not going to fix this. You have to put in some work, Chet, to get to know her and then accept who she is. Even put as simply as that, Chet still doesn't understand what she's saying. He's not listening to her. It's kind of amazing and terrifying that this man wants to be in the government running things when he can't.
That's the worst part. Like, what? How is he even going to function? How does he even make it this far in life?
Nepotism,
being a man,
male privilege. This is one of those societies where, like, if you have money, you're seen as better than everybody else. So, like, he's an incompetent. If he was in America, he would be an incompetent, mediocre white man that, like, fails upward and ends up in charge of shit. That's who Chet is in America, basically. Like somebody who doesn't deserve it, like gets up there and is like, oh, look at me. That's Chet. Male privilege, money privilege, like status privilege gives you Chet, who's the actual worst. And then Big Nung is like, okay, for some reason you still don't get this. So I'm going to create a completely unrealistic and totally far-fetched scenario to help you understand. It didn't work with your daughter, but I'm going to try with you for some reason. She's smarter than you. So let's try this. She's like, suppose your daughter likes a girl. What would you do? AKA, like, if your daughter fell in love with a woman, what would you do? And what's Chet's gut reaction? He's like, well, I would send my FBI agents after Yui. Because this is about Yui, right? Yui, right? And Nung's like, oh my god, I said hypothetical, first of all. And that's not... And he just keeps... He's so mad at this scenario because he's like... His job as the dad is to control her romantic life. So she's like, she can't be a lesbian. I'm never going to allow her to do that. I won't let her do that. And Big Nung's like, calm down. Call the hit off of Yui. This was a scenario. I was not... Put the phone down, Chet. Stop calling the FBI agents. Like, this is just a scenario. They're not dating. They're not dating. Do you understand? Repeat it after me. They're not dating. There we go. Now we're on the same page. Great. She's like, but what if they were, Chet? What would you do? Let's say your daughter's already in the relationship. What would you do? And Chet does think about this before blurting out homophobia like he did last time. He thinks about this for a second before he says, I don't know, which is interesting because later, and not later, in, what was it, 106? The same question gets posed to Pingfa by Little Nun, where she's like, yes or no, can I date a woman? And Big Fa's like, I don't know. Like, when they're actually confronted with the actual scenario, they're like, I want to date a woman. Will you let me? Yes or no? Both of them are like, I don't know.
It's not a no.
It's not a no. It's a I don't know. So, like, okay, Big Nung's like, all right, making progress. Great. That wasn't a throw her out of my house, cut her off deal. Not that she cares. Big Nung will be thrilled. Little Nung would have to be thrilled. Like, you're going to cut me off, Chet? Great. That's exactly what I wanted. So, I'm going to date Big Nung even harder now. So, yeah. So then Big Nung once again, for the millionth time, tries again to spell out very clearly to Chet what the situation is. And she's like, okay, I've been trying to be nice about this, but you're an idiot. So let me just tell you. Instead of throwing money at her to win her heart, money, the thing she doesn't need, why don't you try to be open-minded and just accept who she is and respect her choices? That costs you nothing. So, because all Little Nun wants is to be treated like a human being. She wants somebody to accept her, to listen to her, which is literally all Big Nung does. And then everybody in their family is like, wow, Big Nung, I don't know why she listens to you so much. I don't know how you're such an amazing Little Nung whisperer. And she's like, I literally just listen to her, process what she's saying, and respect what she wants. That's literally the magic formula.
Her own person.
Nobody listens to
It's not
Little
hard.
Nun. Also, like, the other thing, too, is, like, Big Nung lets Little Nung speak. Most of everybody else in her life doesn't even let her talk. Like, so how would they know what she wants? They don't let her talk. They talk around her and about her as if she's not present, but they don't talk to her. Big Nung is the only one who's like, Little Nung, how do you feel about going to America? Like, she's the only one. And they're like, wow, I don't know how you do it, Big Nung. It's like, you guys are ridiculous. It's astounding.
These people are clueless.
So clueless. And it's just like, we have to keep doing this over and over again because, like, they're like, the magician is so good, I can't understand the magic trick. And Nung's like, I just showed you the magic trick, how I did it 500 times. Why is this still a mystery to you?
Well, especially with the grandmother, she's been able to control Little Nung for so long that this is the first time, like, Little Nung is able to really not rebel, but be her own person.
Yes.
Since she is separated from being in that house more, that I don't think the grandmother knows what to do. She's like, I'm losing the control. I need to figure out how to deal with that. And she can't. Because all she knows is to control the situation in any way possible.
Right. Exactly. Because, like, Pingfa, while she lost control of Pingfa, she ultimately controlled Pingfa at the end of the day. Like, Pingfa unfortunately made the mistake of getting with Chet, which was a huge mistake because it's Chet, Pingfa. I understand you were upset over Big Nung.
End well.
No, it was never going to end well. I understand you were upset, obviously, because you chose Chet. And so Pingfa made the mistake as a child, and it was all about the scandal, right? So, like, Little Nung's grandmother was so triggered about child Little Nung following in her mother's footsteps. Now she's dealing with an adult, and still, in the prior conversation with Little Nung and her grandmother, is still, like, trying to control her. But you see she has less control. And I think the grandmother was like, I'm getting too old for this shit. You're an adult. Don't make me, instead of, like, hitting Little Nung or get, like, she didn't go to corporal punishment, did she? She was like, don't make me sad. She goes into guilt. She's like, which is how you control adult children, not tiny children. So, like, their dynamic is changing, like, naturally, because Little Nung is stepping into her adulthood in her family's eyes. Legally, she's an adult, but, like, you know, they're starting to see her as an adult, and the old playbook of controlling her doesn't work anymore. Especially when Little Nung's like, I don't need money. You can't buy me off. Like, you can't ground me. I don't live here. You know what I mean? Like, these tricks are going to stop working. And I think, like, the grandmother is so used to controlling young children because she was controlling Pingfa, who's a child. Now she's controlling Little Nung. Now what? Like, what does the grandmother do with all her time now? She's not controlling young women. Like, I think the grandmother's going to start going through an identity crisis and be like, who am I now? Like, I was just controlling women for, like, 30 years or whatever.
Yeah, because it's been a long time that she's been raising a child. Not well, but, like, still, that becomes half of your life, more than half.
It's like a third of her life. She was raising kids, like children. Yeah. 16 years with Pingfa, then 20 years with Little Nung. Like, that's
a lot.
36 years, a third of her life was just raising. That's a lot. That is so much. So, like, she deserves a retirement and, like, should never be raising anybody ever again. Just go away and sunset yourself. Get out of here.
Never allowed around children again.
Never again. Okay, so back to the conversation with Chet. One thing that I love is that in the conversation, Big Nung calls out both Pingfa and Chet. And she's like, you know the thing that you, father, and Pingfa, mother, have never given Little Nung? It's accepting her, being open-minded, and respecting her. You've both never given her that, and that's literally the only thing she wants. That is literally why her and I are so close. That's all it takes, and you guys keep denying her the one thing she wants. And she leaves this with Chet, and then basically is like, think about this, and, like, mic drops and gets on out of there. And it's like, Big Nung, it's Chet. Can he even think, is my question. Because, like, can he? I have no evidence that he can.
Has Big Nung ever, I mean, she had to have, but just thought about, okay, but what if this family just never comes around? Like, they're going to have to accept that one day and just live their life.
Well, like I said, I think that once Little Nung is officially an adult and out of school, because, like, the family's paying for school and shit, like, I think once it's at that stage, it's a different story. But right now, it's like year 1 of 4 of Little Nung being in school. And Little Nung's impatient as fuck. So, like, and like, the bigger problem, I think, in Nung's brain is that, like, Little Nung's family doesn't accept Little Nung. And, like, yeah, they went through this. Remember, let's go back to Gap. Did Sam being queer go over well with the grandmother? No. Neither did Song being queer. Nobody being queer went over well with the grandmother. But with enough time, like, they love each other. And so with enough time, the grandmam came around to Sam. So, like, I think Nung has that example and is like, I think I'm hopeful over time if we can, like, go about this the right way, you know, and not yell at each other and blow up, that, like, perhaps with time, you guys can come around, like, start planting seeds. Like, well, what if she was queer? Think about that. Have you ever thought about that? Their initial reaction is terrible, but she's like, no, really think about it. What if that was reality? And that's why the answer is always like, I don't actually know what I would do in that scenario. I don't think they've ever thought about it. So she's like, I need you to start thinking about this.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a lost, at this stage, it's not a lost cause. Nung's like, this is just going to take time. I saw Sam go through this. It took time. Like, eventually, though, if the grandmam can do it, anybody can do it. Like, you know,
there's a phases of acceptance. And first they just have to accept that they can't control Little Nung. It's so hard to get them to realize that.
And that's what Big Nung is saying in this conversation. She's like, you need to see her as her own person. Like, you need to see her as a person. Respect what she wants. Accept who she is without trying to throw money at her, like, to make her love you. Like, just get to know her. Like, that's the problem. Nobody knows her. So she's like, the first step is know your family member. Like, come on. Can we just, like, start with that? Like, because Big Nung, I think at the end of the day, she's like, even if I wasn't in the picture, I want her to have her family. And like right now, none of these people realize they don't have her. Like, they don't realize that. They're just like, she's my daughter, therefore mine. It's like, have you spoken to her? Like, she doesn't even see you as her dad at all. She doesn't even want you. So, like, no one's communicating in this family. And so Nung is trying to be like the communicator that facilitates the conversation even starting, because they're not independently having any conversation at all. And like we keep saying, the Nungs are good at communicating, but like the family members are terrible at it. So like, I think she's also trying to play intermediary to be like, how do you feel? You know what I mean? Just to like get the conversation going, because nobody's talking. Anyway.
I mean, Little Nung barely sees these people anymore, especially Chet. So I don't understand how Chet thinks he has any relationship with her.
He's like, genetically, she's mine. I want to... It's the same problem Pinkfoot has. It's like, he's like, she's my daughter. I'm trying to step into the role of father right now. And it's like, she's 20. And you're trying to treat her like she's 10 years old. Like, and like, you've known her whole life. And she's like, she didn't even know who you were until like a week ago. So... Again, it's delusion on his part, but thinks he's doing the right thing by being like, she didn't have a father, now she has one. I'm trying to be the best father I can. This is what fathers do. And he's not wrong. Like, this is what fathers do. But he's like, Big Nung's trying to point out, everybody's missing the point. It's like, does she want this? Like this is what you want. You now are suddenly like, I'm ready to be a father. So I'm going to play the role of father. And it's like, that's great, Chet, that you finally made it there, even though you ran away 16 years ago or 20 years ago. Great. Good for you. But does your daughter actually want you to be her father? That's probably the first step we should start with, instead of you just assuming all of these things. Like he did in this conversation. He's like, I'm assuming she doesn't have a car, therefore I will get her a car. I will teach her to drive the car. Big Nung's like, that's a fantastic plan, but step one is, does she want the car? It's the same thing. It's just, yeah. He's an idiot. Let's be real. But he's doing his best to play the role of father because he wants to, not because Little Nung wants or needs him to. Okay, so one thing I really love about this scene, and in the opening scene of part 3 when we get there later, is that Big Nung and Little Nung absolutely 100% share a brain cell. And I keep pointing that out because they do. Because in this episode, they both do these things where they go behind each other's backs to confront their significant other's family members or surrogate families in a way to ease the family members into their relationship. So Big Nung was literally, unfortunately, having this horrible dinner with Chet because she's trying to get him to accept Little Nung's queerness, so that eventually their relationship will be fine. And then later, Little Nung is going to go do the exact same thing with like, but much more directly, because Big Nung's family is in a different headspace with all of this, because Sam. And Nung is like, I'm not hiding my relationship, I don't care. So but I love that they both do that, because they're both active partners in this process of like getting the relationship like out there and accepted, okay? Because in season 1, we only really saw Big Nung doing this stuff where she would like set up family dinners at Little Nung's to be like, we need to talk about the Little Nung situation. You know what I mean? She would do these things where she would like defend Little Nung, or she would have sidebars with Chet to be like, your daughter's queer, you need to fucking like accept that. Like, stop yelling at her. I'm not going to tell her it's wrong. You fucking tell her it's wrong if that's how you feel, you big homophobe. Like, she was constantly doing these things to be like, accept her, listen to her. But now they're both doing it because they're playing an active role in their relationship. And like, to be fair, in season 1, Little Nung didn't know anything about Big Nung's family because Big Nung never told her who she was. So there's that. But I still appreciate the evolution of their relationship. And in season 2, you have 2 people who are both working together to build a future that they both want. It's really great. And it's honestly something we don't see on screen really much either, which is another reason I love this show. Like, usually it's just like the falling in love part, and then it's like the end, like, and they live happily ever after. But here it's like, you're seeing the mundane parts of like keeping a relationship going. It's like, it's not always smooth sailing. Like, sometimes like you have to keep like fighting for things or like working together to fix things. That's what they're doing in this episode, which is awesome.
I really love that we get to see it because it's so important. And obviously, yes, it doesn't make sense for every TV show, but this one is showing you the joy in the mundane as well. Like, it's just being together in the moment and taking the time to show that and not just be like, move the plot along. Like, we get them just sitting on the couch together reading, and it's really cute.
Yeah. So I love their partnership is it's active on both sides, which is another thing that doesn't always get displayed in media. Like, sometimes it's one partner working harder than the other for the relationship, but here in this episode you see them both working to like get the families on board. They're both doing it for the benefit of the other partner and ultimately like their relationship. Okay. So enough of chat. Meanwhile, back at the university, Yui is exhausted with being Little Nung's bodyguard. Because she's like, Big Nung hired me, she didn't pay me, and I gotta be your bodyguard. Like, she's like, all these boys keep staring at me like they want to fight me. Your grandmother wants to fight me. Your dad tried to fight me, but he's a terrible fighter. She's like, I'm tired. And Little Nung's like, yeah, also, like, my grandmother doesn't even want me to be friends with you because you're a lesbian. And Yui's like, oh my god, for the millionth time, I'm not a lesbian, I'm queer. And Little Nung's like, I know, don't be mad, I know. Which she says in English, which is really cute. And then, and it could be like, and I wondered why she did this. And like, people have pointed out, like, people that speak multiple languages sometimes slip into other languages, but like, we don't see Little Nung speaking in English often, so I wonder if it's also like she's doing it in university, so I wonder if it's also like it was a choice to be like, Little Nung's doing better at school, look at how like her English sounds great, like Yoko's English is very good, so I wonder if it's a way to show that like, oh, Little Nung is doing well in school, like look at her just speaking very well in English, you know, because like in season 1 it was established that she was struggling in school, now she's thriving, so like she's in school, like speaking multiple languages like it's nothing. So I think it's a way to show that like she's growing, I guess, academically. So anyway, Yui and Little Nung proceed to have a really quick but really good conversation about the generation gap when it comes to queerness, specifically in like Thailand where they live. Because you know, it starts off with the grandmother won't let us be friends because you're queer, and then Yui's like, ugh, it's a generation gap thing, I know. And so far in the media that we've seen, like the Thai media, we've only seen shows that portray this mostly from like older people's perspectives, like Gap, for example. Like you're seeing it like from the grandmam's perspective, like 3 generations out, and like from Sam and Mon, who are more like adults, kind of thing, like older adults, I guess. And then like 23.5 didn't really touch on it. It was more like, it's fine. It's like Heartstoppery. It's like everything's perfect in this universe. So like, I like this because you're getting the conversation from like the youth, like people who are entering adulthood, like right now. Like Yui's probably like 19, 20. Like they're entering adulthood and they're like, when you're younger, the younger generation is like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. But now they're like entering the adult sphere where like they're being confronted with the homophobia and shit, and they're like, yeah, it's really exhausting. So I like this conversation from them because they're on the same page. Like Little Nung's like, I understand what queer is. I understand your identity. Like this is like, I get it. But like the older generations don't understand it, and they express that like it's exhausting. Like Yui's like says something about like, I have cousins, but I can't like that love me, but I can't talk to them about this stuff. Like they can't even have conversations because no one's on the same page with Yui. And literally, we just had a scene where Big Nung was having this battle with Little Nung's father, who doesn't understand the queerness. So like,
it's an exhausting conversation.
An exhausting conversation with Chip, but like that's reality sometimes for some people, right? And so they both agree that like obviously the older adults don't understand the nuances of queerness. Like that's part of the problem as this like is evolving. But Yui, when Yui's talking about her family, she basically says like her family like doesn't want to take the time to really understand this aspect of my life, you know. So it's like how do you bridge the gap when like the other party won't even talk to you about it? That was the grandmam and Nung, right? So Little Nung is the optimistic one in this scenario, or she's like, well, I think there's got to be a way to bridge the gap. I'm hopeful that there is. I think personally she's trying to achieve this by dating Big Nung, who's in the older generation. She's like, well, if I can wife somebody in the older generation, like it'll be fine. Like that's how you bridge the gap, by dating them. Like, good plan, though.
That's one way to do it, I guess.
That's one way to do it. Good for you. Personally, I would have really enjoyed, like, Yui was expanded on a lot more in the show, which was great. But personally, I would have liked to expand Yui just a little bit more in the show, so I can see her friendship with Little Nung and have more conversations or like more scenarios where these guys are dealing with like the queerness outside of like Big Nung and Little Nung's relationship. I understand Big Nung is the protagonist, so that wasn't going to happen, but like it would have been interesting to get their point of view, because a lot of this is Big Nung's point of view. But to get like their point of view would have been good.
Cool to have something like the Women's Center in Sex Lives of College Girls at their university and have like Yui be like the leader of that and invite Little Nung in and just have that world. But obviously it revolves around the Nung's relationship. So even if they had that, it would still be like Little Nung going in there talking about how she has someone in her life that she can't like fully be with right now because of society expectations and all of that. But it would have given a little more depth to the younger generation's queer storyline.
Yeah, I think that would have been too much for the show, because again, like it's Big Nung's story. Like they even they expanded the fact that Yui's here. They're having this conversation is an expansion on Little Nung as a character from the book, which is like it's good that this exists. I would like to have had a couple more scenes with just them, even with Folk maybe, just like having conversations. Like what would have been cool is if this would never happen, but if Nung, remember the scene later, like in a couple episodes where Big Nung's like, I'm gonna show Little Nung we have nothing in common, which is bullshit, and then invites over Chet and Juan Viva and then Folk, and then they start talking about cryptocurrency, where the hell they're talking about. It was this weird conversation.
That scene
where I truly believe Big Nung also had no idea what they were talking about, was just trying to play it cool, because she's like, I don't know what they're talking about, because that's technology, she doesn't know. So I'm pretty sure that was that conversation. But what I would have liked to have had is where we had these people in the room, and then like the concept of queerness comes up, right? And then you have like Yui, Folk. Like, why couldn't we have them in the room having the discussion, and like that would have been interesting, instead of like these yelling closed door matches that we did, but like to actually be like, let's actually talk about this. Anyway, because that's not dramatic, so we didn't do that. But anyway, Little Nung is like, listen, I'm all hopeful that like everything's gonna be fine and stuff, because my family will eventually get over themselves and accept my queerness, because I'm actively in love with the woman of my dreams. And Yui's like, wait a minute, you're in love with somebody? Like, who?
Why haven't you told me? Because they're supposed to be best friends now. I mean, Yui's doing all this work to help her with the podcast. Like,
right. You're in love? That requires like a lot of dating and shit. And Little Nung panics, because I don't think she meant to say it. This was a private thought that like came out of her mouth. She's like, fuck. And she responds, Pee-Pee Bilkin, and runs away. And Yui's like, what? Which doesn't make any sense in the context of what they were talking about. Because like I looked it up, and this Pee-Pee Bilkin is a Thai actor, like a dude. He's been in queer stuff. But like, Yui's like, we were just talking about queerness. What is happening? I thought you were a lesbian. I'm confused. Why are you talking about men? So I think that was the confusion. She's like, are you into women? I'm confused. You're trying to date me like a minute ago.
it's like out of everybody, that's what.
So random. Like, it's so random. What a random thing. So random. All right. So unfortunately, we're going to have to split this episode into two, because you already know the second half of this episode is a journey. So we're going to end it here, because we were already talking for like 3 hours. So Taylor Swift songs for this episode. I already said Cardigan. I think Cardigan is a Little Nung Big Nung song for sure, and definitely applies to this episode. So I do love that.
And mine was This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things.
We've brought that song up so many times because it's applicable. Okay. Did we do Big A Energy Award for this episode?
I don't think we've ever done it for part 1 and 2. Yeah.
We usually just spit them out in the middle of the episode, but I don't think we have awarded anything to anybody.
No, we did not award anything.
I would like to give the Big Gay Energy Award for Big Nong trying to have that conversation with Chet. Because, oh my god, the way she had to, like, dumb down the conversation every single time to be like, why are you still not getting this? Your daughter's queer. Like, I'm surprised she didn't just yell at him to be like, she's a lesbian. React. Like, he's so frustrating. Like, she has all the patience in the world when it comes to little Nung. Like, I swear to God. She definitely wanted to slap that man, but didn't. Because she's dating his daughter.
I'm going to give the Big Gay Energy Award to the communication going on between the two of them.
Oh, literally. Hydrate for their communication, because that is beautiful. All right, Kaitlynn, do you have a super secret word for people?
I do. Again, this was the most random thing that came into my brain. If you made it this far in the episode, we want to know, because it's been a lot, and if you're still here, we love you.
We do.
So
we're best friends now.
Today's word is chamomile. I don't know why, Theora. I don't have any explanation, because my word makes more sense that I have for this episode for the next part.
I see.
So, yeah. I had to figure out something very random. So, yes, use chamomile in a comment or a review. That would be very weird in a review.
Now I'm just trying to think about, what is your word for part 2? Is it bondage? Like, what went with dominatrix? Like, what was your word? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's nothing, like, entertaining.
Sure it is. Just guess in the comments, what could Kaitlynn's word possibly be? Or give her suggestions.
Yes, give me suggestions for words. I have to stop Googling words at the beginning of every episode.
Oh my god. Anyway, so that's your homework assignment. You got 2 homework assignments. So thank you. And keep on listening. So next time we get into the second half of this episode, which is so good. So not going to want to miss that. So in preparation for that, make sure you hydrate a lot for Lesbian Jesus, because Lesbian Jesus was involved in the making of part 4 of episode 3. Let's be real.
And get up all over the place. Bye.
Bye. And with that, we've been Big Gay Energy. If you like this episode, check out all our other episodes right here on YouTube.
Please like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for more amazing super gay content.